All right, I think we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. We are going to be holding session 3 for the campaign set in the world of Momentum. This is a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign, and tonight's episode is called Kalandari Risen. This is, as I said, an ongoing campaign, and I am joined by 5 fantastic players this evening. I'm very excited. It's been 2 months or so since we've gotten a chance to play. So I'm very, very excited to kind of pick up where we left off, which was kind of on a cliff, the edge of a cliff. So I'm going to toss things over to them so that they can do introductions and to introduce their channels and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll get things kicked off here. So first up, we've got Dave.
Hey folks, I'm Dave with Mornblade Gaming, and tonight I am going to be returning as Kalp Yanam, the blade singer, the Valilam elf, the sky elf. So I'm looking forward to getting back into this. It's been about 2 months, so honored to play with these gentlemen, and so that's me. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. The beard is looking mighty impressive, I have to say. Speaking of mighty impressive beards, Jacob Norman.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Jake, also known as Mini Terrain Domain. I can be found most nights over on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain, where we have regular D&D 5th edition live streams happening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. Thursdays are extra special because Jeremy is a part of that group. Although we will not be playing tomorrow due to the Valentine's holiday. Some people want to spend time with their sweethearts, and that's understandable. So, but yeah, and I also do some crafting of terrain and miniatures and things like that over on the Mini Terrain Domain YouTube channel. And I am playing Katya Kybrik, a fiercely, fierce young woman Delver dwarf who is harried by a mysterious shadow spirit that has also given her some powers and is just trying to find her way in this world. And if it weren't for some of these others, in particular Ingvaraad, I think she might be lost. And actually, not just Ingvaraad, but also Cal is becoming an important person to her now.
Absolutely. Speaking of sweethearts that you like to spend time with, Jeff.
I was not ready for that segue, but I'll take it, I guess. I'm flattered, really and truly I am.
Yes, in the mail.
Oh, great. I can't wait. I definitely got you something too. It'll be a little bit late. It was the mail, I think, that caused the problems. But yeah, I got you too. Yes, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel. It's called The Counterbalance, where I run my games and make some other content. I also do a podcast called The Dudes of Yore with my wonderful sweetheart Jeremy here, as well as our other good friend Chad Nick. So please check either of those out if you're interested. I am playing Darian, who is a former sailor and former ether addict, which is a drug in this world. Trying to find a more sober path in this place and kind of find a purpose outside of the thuggery and low life that he's had before.
Positively. And speaking of thuggery, Lloyd.
What the fuck, Jeremy? Thuggery. I'm outraged. I'm Lloyd. I run a YouTube channel called Your DM, where you can. Oh, you got me so good. Where you can watch me run games, or mostly you can watch Nick Dawson run games on my channel. because his are better. So you can watch those if you want on your LDM. I play Ingvaraad, who's a priestess and trying to find her way in the world.
Absolutely. And I will second Nico's awesomeness. He's a very, very cool guy to just to chat with, honestly, but even to play in or play with a game in or under. It's going to be a fun night, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Last but most certainly not least, Austin.
Nothing to plug. I will be playing Bastaarad, the Bonekin, an angry man just trying to figure out how not to push people away. Short and sweet. Like my beard.
Absolutely. All right. Anybody who talked about a channel, you can find the links to those channels in the description of this video down below. I do highly recommend you go check out their stuff. Every single one of these individuals, with the exception of Austin, just because I haven't had the opportunity yet. Every single one of them is a fantastic GM. So, last bit of business. This is an adult game, and there's going to be adult language. And mature topics are certain to come up. If that kind of thing bothers you, then don't watch. Don't listen either. So yeah, unless you guys can think of any questions, we'll go ahead and get this thing started. No, cool. All right then. Here we go. The cities of the Dryendel elves were nearly like mazes. For those not accustomed to their multitude of winding streets and countless alleyways. Add to this that the city of Belorion was now as jumbled as the contents of a cupboard fallen from the wall, and it was a wonder that you were able to make any headway at all here. But, after running into a pack of carnage hounds, tarrying further seemed unwise. Viddaraas, the young bonekin woman who came to you with this errand, was visibly shaken by the encounter. Despite what her father and her aunt may have to say, she seemed resolute to press onward. And so it was, as the continuing dusk cast its long shadows across the broken city, that you made your way towards the skyship that was tether anchored ahead. So if you would, please, each of you kind of describe something about the area where you have stopped and are now kind of making your plans for what happens next. What lies between you and the temple with the prayer tower where the elven airship is stationed? Awesome.
The broken rebar not rebar, the broken stone and metal of these buildings of this fallen city. I'm sorry, a little ahead of myself. Bone and flesh, because I'm in Bonekin. God damn it. All right, so the bone and flesh of this city has created these gaping chasms over which it seems like there are smoldering bits of wreckage that would be far too hot to touch, that need to be either traversed over or around.
In addition, there's lots of broken and loose stones and debris where larger pieces of masonry or stone or whatever other debris lies here might seem stable, but the smaller debris underneath it acts as a sort of bearings underneath it. And unfortunately, I think that that I'm probably discover this the hard way in a weakened state, stepping on what looks like a stable piece of ground, trying to appear strong, and the rock slides underneath me, and I end up flat on my back in a cloud of dust. And not at all as silent as we should be given recent events.
Standing water does not do well around this part of the world, and any sort of puddles, like very quickly turn to like this viscous goo that like lets off this really strong stink, like acrid smell, and they need to be avoided, or at least like a cloth over your face when you like walk past them, because the stench is something supernatural.
There's this weird sensation that seems to like haunt over a lot of these different places, as like the magic that used to hold the city aloft as it's fallen. It sort of created these strange ripple effects of that seems to distort things in the area. You can almost like hear things in the wind, things that may have happened long ago or even long into the future, or maybe it's not even real and it's all in your head. There seems to be these strange audio distortions almost, as the overwhelming magic has kind of fractured into pieces as the city is no longer held. And you can hear strange sounds, strange voices, conversations, things that you've never heard before, yet seem to only be in your mind.
Yeah, in addition to the stench, it's something that not only the stench from the puddle of pools, but the remnants of what's underneath the fallen stone. And Kalp is very aware of the feeling of the spirits that was just mentioned. And it's almost painful to view in all of it, because even though a working city goes through restructure and maintenance, he's seen it 1,000 times before. This is far beyond that. This would take, even if they could restore the ether, the beauty that was lost in here is beyond what can be given back. Kalp's heart mourns for that.
So, as you all have found this small space, this respite from the chaos and danger that is that is now synonymous with Belorion, you have hunkered down and are able to take some time to gather your wits, bind your wounds, things of that nature, and kind of lay out this plan of approach as you're now within sight of this elven temple that is mostly still standing upright, and one of which the features are of this temple are the bell tower, the prayer tower that kind of extends up from its center. And this airship is tethered to the top of this prayer tower and is floating, hovering some probably 150 to 200 feet into the sky. You can hear and see quite a bit of movement around the temple, mostly inside its walls. And your guess is, since you have seen at least one pair of Kalandari approaching this temple, that they're bringing things and relics that they have found scattered throughout the city to this temple, likely with plans of loading it on their airship. So as you're making your plan of approach and discussing this situation, what does that look like?
Darian's gonna like lean in to the others, especially to Viddaraas, but acknowledging most of the people in the group. Now, judging by those, shoot, I forgot what the names of the creatures that we fought just were. Those dog things.
Carnage
Whatever, if you don't
hounds.
mind. Yeah. Judging by how we reacted to those carnage hounds, it looks like you guys like to play the hero. Now, as much fun as that was, he'll like roll his eyes. If we do that in this temple, we're all as good as dead, or at least captured. I don't know what those people do to people like us. We have to be more careful. I know it's not everyone's style here, but it's important if we're going to do this.
Fine. I can be quiet if I need to. And I'm willing to look the other way if Ingvaraad is willing to let that pass.
She like looks between and then to like Viddaraas for a second and says, "It seems Darian's expertise is necessary here, more so than mine."
I suppose that he knows what he's talking about. How should we stay together, or should we separate?
If we separate, it's less chance of getting caught, but it's more danger if we are caught. No one there to help you. Either way has its challenges and has its benefits. This thing that you're after, you're certain that it's up on the ship itself, so like eye up towards the top of the tower where the ship is anchored, and not anywhere else inside the temple?
No, I'm not certain. She kind of looks sheepishly. I think I'm fairly sure that it's on. She kind of follows where your eyes went on that ship.
If things go south, we'll want each other somewhat nearby. I don't think if we do split up that we should go too far. Just in case. That said, I think the best approach will be to kind of eye around. These people, they seem like they're a fairly orderly sort. They have their traditions and their ways. They might have guard patterns, stations set up specifically. If we can find out where they're going and why and how, we know where to avoid. We can sneak in. It'll be easier than bashing down the front door. We don't know how many of them are in there.
They seek relics from another time. Is that right? Magical objects of power?
I'm sorry, were you asking me, Lloyd?
I was asking the gang, but I'll ask you.
Gotcha. Sure. Yes, the Kalandari, the ones that you ran into a pair of before, I believe Kalp was able to tell you that they belong to this religious order of elven priests and priestesses that are relic hunters. And this is what they do. They chase down things that they believe should be in elven hands.
It's potentially possible, she'll say to the rest of them, that we could lure them, some of them, away. I can make magical objects, like shrugs, like that's not a big deal. If we find something that looks elvish, I can enchant it, and they might come and look for it.
Did we end up taking? I can't remember offhand, but did we end up taking that Kalandari armor from before and end up putting it in any sort of wearable shape, or was it either destroyed or left?
You guys definitely claimed at least one suit of it. I think maybe their weapons as well, if I'm not mistaken. And I do not know what of it you guys managed or decided to keep, or what you sold off or traded off, rather.
Sorry, I have an unworked piece of their armor.
Do you have that with you?
Well, it's probably in our camp, actually.
Okay.
But I'm sure that we have something that we like with us that is elvish. It just needs to be elvish, I think. And I can enchant it with my forge powers, and maybe like hoping, maybe it's a bit meta, but like hoping that they, use some sort of magical detection to find magic items, and they might come look for it.
How high up is the ship from where we're at?
Let's just call it a cool 200 feet.
Okay.
Kalp, you sailed on an elven ship for a while. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Like an
well,
airship?
I've been on many because we've had to. I've traveled doing trade deals and opening trade negotiations for the family. So
that's right. Okay. So roll me a perception check, if you would, please.
Okay. I don't think that's going to be... He is lost in his thoughts at the moment with a 7.
Fair enough.
But are you saying if the ship looks familiar to me? Is that what we were establishing?
Partially, but not wholly.
Okay.
I am wondering, do you think it is Ingvaraad, the magical nature of the weapon that draws them to it? Or the elven nature, or both?
I suppose it could be both. I think it's more likely the magical. There are people, even in my faith, who can find a magical reading. And these seem specialized in it.
I wonder, because when I make my weapons, and you see the shadow sort of dance around my fingers a little bit, like when I summon my weapons, they have a magical property to them. And I can summon any weapon that I have seen. And we've seen some of these elves use their weapons in when we kind of got up and close with them. I'm not actually forming one at the moment, but you see the as I just sort of kind of move my hand around, that shadowy form dances around a little bit. I just wonder if it is a matter of something as relatively as simple as this. Perhaps I could, well, be the bait.
If we're going to split, I think it would make sense for some of us, if we are going to do this, and I like this idea. I think it might work, actually. The two of you use your magic to pull them away, to gather, and then some of the rest of us sneak in, try to get on board. Seems as good as any plan. And then I'll shrug.
I might be able to call upon some shadow myself to aid us in a quiet passing.
You should go with Darian then.
I can make Darian invisible as well.
Then you should certainly go.
I hate to break it to you guys, but it'll point to Viddaraas. She's gonna have to go too. She's the only one who knows what the thing is, and she won't tell us. So you'll have to let her go.
No, that cannot be.
He'll shrug.
Ingvaraad, I won't let her out of my sight. You know I won't let anything happen to her.
Either she tells us what the thing
fine.
is, or she goes.
Of course I'm going. I said I was going to go. I've come this far.
Ingvaraad, she's my daughter and her mother's as well. You know if she says she's going, there's nothing that you can do to stop her. I'll look out for her.
Ingvaraad like looks at Bastaarad with this like, I think there's like an insult coming, and then she like stops and doesn't say like the mean thing she was going to say about how he can't even look out for himself, and then like takes a breath. All right, but if any harm comes to her, harm will come to you.
If any harms come to her, I'm already dead.
And you she'll like look at Viddaraas and like point her finger. No heroics. Nothing like that.
No,
Stick with your father.
Auntie.
We clear?
Yes, we're clear.
Good.
Throughout this, Kalp is kind of doing that whole kind of uncomfortable, like it's like this family argument that he doesn't want to take part in. So he's just sort of looking away, and well, if it comes to it, we'll be light as a feather.
Okay. So who is on the bait team?
So wait a minute. If I'm understanding this, nobody had any problem with me being the bait. You are all in
Yeah.
agreement with this.
You've already almost killed 2 of us, so you might as well put yourself on the line. And then he'll like catch himself with how callous that is, and like kind of grab at his own mouth.
At the same time, Katya looks like she wants to snap a retort at you, but actually looks kind of sheepish.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Wasn't Ingvaraad going with you, Katya? Helping you with that?
I will.
So I think you're safe. You're in good hands.
I
So I've been told.
was just surprised to see no debate or question about myself being the bait.
Well, we're going into the temple that's full of these guys. We're not exactly on the safe side either.
But it was more about the idea that you all agreed to my idea. I will keep my mouth shut now and just accept that I had a good idea.
You did? Darren will shrug, like, what's the problem?
Okay. So it sounds like Ingvaraad and Katya are going to try to summon weapons, I guess, somewhere nearby to try to see if they'll come out to investigate.
Yeah, ideally we can find somewhere that's like defensible, maybe somewhere that we can set up a trap, something like that, and then lure them there, ideally.
Absolutely. This place is in such shambles. There's all kinds of large pieces of rubble and half walls and doorways that are now completely wide open because the doors are gone. So there's certainly a place that you guys could find to your liking that wouldn't be far.
Ideally, we could find some sort of a partial structure that looks as though it's about ready to collapse. I'm sort of half saying this in character to Ingvaraad. I can use I can basically use my magic against the structure itself to bring it down on top of them.
She nods, and we'll just begin like craning her neck to like look around if there's anywhere that like fits that description.
Yeah, I would say you guys are able to find a. It looks like it was a stable. And you're in somewhat of a nicer area of town, so this was a fairly substantial structure. But with all of the openings and things of that nature, the wooden structure parts have cracked and are teetering. This kind of every time the wind blows, you can hear this entire place kind of moan and pop with movement. So you're fairly certain it wouldn't take much to bring this thing down.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we'll like set up there, I think, and if you can summon a dagger or a sword or something of elvish sort of design, I can use my forge ability to make it a +1 weapon, and then it'll be a magic elf weapon.
It's already a magic weapon when I summon it.
Oh, okay, even better. Then I can use it on my hammer.
So as we're setting up this, kind of heading over there, have the others left then? Is it just Ingvaraad and I?
I am assuming so.
So as we're kind of heading there, and you're telling me this, I'm kind of doing that thing where like kids got to tell you something, and they're a little nervous to say it out. About this this trap wheel making. So I can do this. I can summon this weapon, and it will be magical. It will have magical properties, and I can make it to look like what were they using against us again, Jeremy? I'm trying to remember.
One of them had a great sword.
A great sword.
I believe that's what he had.
So I'm thinking I can make this, something big and powerful, like that big great sword they were using. And we'll have magic, and we'll hopefully, whatever they're using to detect. But here's the thing. I have to be within 5 feet of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have to be sort of there. And I don't know. Are we thinking we're just going to like set it on lean it against a wall, or would it be more appealing if they saw me, a little dwarven woman, with one of their weapons? Which would be more baity?
If it looks like it's been there a long time, maybe they will be less cautious. They might simply walk up and try and take it. And when they stand there, you can unleash your trap.
Okay. So I'm thinking, as we get into position, we'll have to kind of find somewhere within this building that looks like, whether it's like again, like a piece of wall or something that I can generate this weapon and basically hide on the other side of the wall or nearby so that it maintains its presence. And then I would absolutely do that. Summon it to look like one of these great swords. And probably trying to do what you said, Ingvaraad, but maybe not fully getting it. Just like picking up some dirt and like sprinkling it over the blade and trying to make it like kicking dust on it. And
yeah, I think like she'd like notice that and like not like give out about it, but just maybe pick it up and like place it like in a wedge of stone or something, so it looks like it's been there sort of naturally for a long time, and some grime and more like it's been there 100 years, because the last thing we want is for them to get there and go, oh, that's weirdly new. So I think like between the two of us, like putting dirt and like changing the location a few times to find a place that really works, could probably find somewhere that works.
If if necessary, if they take the bait and they are actually coming to get it, if possible, I can try to get away right before they take it. I can be away from it for up to I don't know, it's like a minute maybe before it just the magic that I use, that it's like it wants to be bound back to me. But that might mean I could get outside of the structure and we can bring it down on top of them. So I won't be in complete danger.
When the structure comes down on them, I'll wade in with my hammer if I have to. And you can get free.
All right. I think we're in agreement on the plan and the tactics.
All right. So you find your spot and summon your weapon. And you manage to kind of duck yourself out of sight just on the other side of one of the stall walls inside this stable. And then you wait. The other group of people, the other three of you, three of you, you set off towards this temple, trying to remain as quiet as you can as you start to sneak closer. What exactly is your plan of approach?
Well, the first thing that the Bastaarad would like to do is as they begin setting out, creeping along this wreckage towards the temple, would be to call some of this shadowy energy around the group and cast Pass Without Trace on all of us, using on the three of us or four of us, I think, because we have that's
right, yes,
here. Okay, yeah. So on the four of us, and I think that'll be for an hour. So it's just plus 10 to stealth, and we can't be tracked except by magical means.
Excellent. So as the kind of painted colors of light are thrown across this broken elven city, the shadows seem to just cling to you guys a little extra. They seem to be a little deeper as you step into them and cling to you almost like water does whenever you come ashore. So as you make your way closer and closer, you're having to pick a very specific path along all of these hazards and ether fire that's still belching up from underneath. But you manage to get within 15 feet of the wall of this temple, just around the corner from one of the doors. And it stands wide open currently. You can hear voices inside and the sound of work being done. Sounds like wood being scraped against stone. There's an occasional thud. Men grunting in effort occasionally. So there's definitely physical labor that's going on the other side of this wall. What would you like to do?
So the actual door itself does not seem to have people. Like, there's not like guards posted at the door itself. We can just hear that there are people on the inside.
Yeah, so you're kind of around the corner from the nearest door. So it's out of sight, but you did not see any guards stationed there.
Yeah, Darian will kind of like hold up one hand to the other to like signal to like wait. I'm gonna try to like sidle up to the corner so that I can like at least do a quick peek around, making my best effort to stay quiet and quick, so I can at least see the door itself.
Okay, go ahead and give me that stealth roll.
Yep, I already rolled one because I figured, and man, Pass Without Trace is so good. So that's a 21.
It really is. All right. So with the help of Bastaarad shaping the shadows, you slink forward up against the wall and scoot down towards the corner. Excuse me. Where you're able to peer around, and taking just a quick little peek, you can see that there are guards, but they're standing about 10 feet inside the door. There are two of them, and they seem fairly relaxed. They're seated on these kind of portable stools, and they just seem to be engaged in idle chit chat. The working seems to be happening somewhere deeper inside of the temple.
Darian will either wave the others over to the corner or move back, whichever would be easiest for us. And then in a quiet whisper, there are two guards stationed inside. They don't seem very attentive, at least not yet. But it would be hard to sneak past them without some sort of distraction, or at least something to break their attention.
Were they wearing the same garb as before? Similar colors to the two we met in the temple, or by the owl?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, Darian would nod.
Okay.
I could make some sort of noise or light. I could call some bit of that shadow to sparkle or around the door. Perhaps try to draw them away if we can find a place to hide.
Well, it would be better if they went deeper in, wouldn't it?
I think we're going deeper in, though, so it may be good to try to draw them out. I don't know.
Once we're through the doorway, there should be plenty of places to hide inside. At least I can't believe that they'd completely clear it out and make it wide open. We just need to get past the doorway. It's the bottleneck that would stop us. The most easiest place to be seen. I don't think it matters which way we pull them, as long as we pull them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an obvious is there a place that looks like we would be able to hide from view of the door for if we could all kind of crouch behind some sort of piece of rubble or wall
Outside of the temple?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I could drag them away from the entrance and then misty step back to the doorway. If you guys hide while they come out, they see only one, and then it's an option.
Darian will nod. If you're willing to do that, then I won't be the one to stop you.
I say we take advantage of our element of surprise and try to get by them. They don't know we're here right now. And I say we keep it that way as long as we can. But
we could just walk back, see if we can walk past them, is what you're saying, right?
I think we could draw them out. Like I said, I could create some sort of illusory image or sound outside of the door or further in, or even on the other side of the room, somewhere to draw their attention.
I think, as contrary as it might seem, further in might be the best bet. If they hear noise or see people outside, even if it's illusory. Might put them on edge, put them on watch.
Good point.
Sounds could come from inside, from anywhere. I already hear labor that's going on in there, people working.
Perhaps
We can find some
sort
way
of
to pull them
animal
in that
noise.
way.
Perhaps some sort of animal noise further within will make them think that something's breached a wall or something, and they'll head for it. Bastaarad will just kind of quietly at this point move up to the door to like peek in where Darian was just looking a few minutes ago, and if there seems to be like a clear like hallway that would be where the work sounds were coming from, he would hold his hand out very like close to the door, trying to keep a small movement, and send this little shock of this sort of that multicolored ether like just shimmer sort of sends across the room, and a sort of cat scratch howl thing like just will crackle off from a minor illusion about down the hallway as far as he can. It's only about 30 feet, but
You do so, and there's an immediate commotion amongst the sounds of labor that shift to shouts, and you can hear blades being drawn and booted footfalls starting to run everywhere. After a minute, you can hear, after just a brief moment, you can hear both of these guards kind of get to their feet and begin discussing in Elvish what should be done. And the decision is made so that one of them will go investigate what's going on, and the other will stay here to make sure that this entrance stays secure.
Can we hear that? Is it loud enough, or?
Most of you are close enough. Anybody who speaks Elvish would understand.
so I definitely wouldn't understand that, but I would probably see one of them moving off in that direction, and the other one staying closer, or maybe even moving closer to the door. And I'll shoot a quick look to Culp, just like be ready, and fire another minor illusion right on the other side of the guy. That's just a whisper in Dwarvish that says, "Are you ready?" I don't know if he speaks Dwarvish, but it's only one of the few languages I speak. So
The second guard had followed his companion to the door that leads further in to the temple, and he's kind of standing there looking as if he's going to see his compatriot find whatever this noise had come from. And then all of a sudden, this individual jerks around in a very quick kind of reaction, drawing his weapon and brandishing it as if to find the speaker standing right next to him, and looks very confused and puzzled. Though you cannot see the expression on his face, the body language tells you everything you need to know.
hopefully Culp will get the message, and I will start I'll start to bolt for him. I want to try to take him down quickly and quietly.
Okay. Is the intent to hit him with attacks, or try to tackle, or?
Yeah, I want to charge at him with my horns.
Excellent. Okay. You certainly have this person by surprise, so you can have advantage on the attack roll.
All right. Awesome. Oof. Well, that's lucky that I have advantage. Let's hope it works better. Ew. 12. I have an inspiration point, and I'm going to spend it because that's bad. Oh, that's better. How about a 19?
Yes, that will absolutely make contact.
Awesome. So is that with horns? It's either damage or prone.
I think that is the case.
I have it open here too. Just make sure.
Let me see if I can get to it.
Horns. Dash action during your turn, you can make a melee attack with your horns. You can choose to forego dealing damage to knock the target prone instead.
There you go.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I would like to knock him prone, and if possible, like clap my hand around his mouth. I want to try to quiet as much as possible.
Okay, yeah. So make a... yeah, go ahead and make a grapple. This would be in athletics if you have it.
Well, oh geez, yeah. Well, I do. So 6.
How far away is he from me?
He charged into the room with the intention, it sounded like, of you kind of being on his heels.
And how far away is he though? 30 feet, I guess. So within 30 feet, right?
Yeah, absolutely within 30.
All right. So I come charging in after him then, and take the flank the guy. So that would cause, if you're allowing it, it would give him advantage on that grapple effect.
So I rolled a 3 total.
Oh, okay.
So apparently, like when this Kalandari was knocked over prone, they actually hit their head against like the edge of one of the stools. And though they're not unconscious, they're certainly like woozy. So it doesn't take much at all for you to kind of gain control of them, Bastaarad, bodily, as you kind of throw your hand over the hollow slit that forms the mouth of this mask.
I'd like to try to rip the mask off.
Okay. Yeah, you can do that as part of like basically trying to get your hand clasped over their mouth.
Yeah, because I'd rather actually make contact with the skin.
Sure.
While this is happening, sorry, go ahead.
So just you feel this really strange sensation as you clap your hand over this elf's mouth. It feels almost like you're trying to grab at like something floating on the surface of water, almost like pieces of bark, like floating on the surface of water. But instead of your hand like being able to pass through the water and grab a hold of these pieces of bark, it kind of stops at the surface. As you realize that this elf is missing a good portion of their face to becoming breathless.
I see the expression on his face, and I say, he's had a lot of breaths.
All right, Jeff, what you got?
So as this is happening, Darian is going to move into the room as well, and he's going to like pull Viddaraas along next to him, making sure that she stays close so he can guide her on where best to hide. But the intention is not to join the other two next to this Kalandari, but to basically find somewhere in the room that he can pull the two of them to hide. So in the event that this draws attention, that at least the two of them can pull these things away, and maybe he and Viddaraas can get further inside and make use of that. Or like to get inside but not engage, and help her to hide alongside me.
Excellent. You find like an alcove kind of on the side of the room that's next to this hallway that leads deeper inside. We're going to jump back over to the stables where Ingvaraad and Katya have been lying in wait for what feels like an eternity. And suddenly you hear a faint, very, very faint voice speaking in Elven. Do either one of you understand Elvish?
Not me.
I'm going to say I don't.
Okay. So you don't understand exactly what's being said, but you can tell that it is an Elven person speaking, or at least someone speaking Elven, as they are getting closer and it sounds almost excited or anxious. You hear the telltale noise of metal boots, metal shod boots closing quickly. It approaches, and you hear the front door of the stable that is still partially intact. You hear this as it's kind of swung open back against its stops. You hear these two individuals approach where you had the sword planted. It takes them a moment to arrive at the specific location, but eventually you can hear them. And they start speaking in Elven again, pointing it out and approaching.
Ingvaraad will be listening really carefully to like where their footsteps are and how close, and when she thinks they're like in a position where the building will fall in a satisfying way, she'll like drop her hand as a sign to Katya.
All I have been doing since we heard the footsteps was listening to the footsteps and watching Ingvaraad, watching for that hand to drop. The second it does so, I scramble out of the building, away from where I was hiding, and just turn back over my shoulder, and I gesture right towards where I think it's. I gotta double check this. Yeah, so looking right towards where I know that weapon is and where these elves are, and I'm going to cast Shatter right on that spot. So actually, I'm going to cast it at the ceiling above it, but it's a 10-foot radius sphere, so it should catch any walls plus them in it.
So yeah, you scramble to your feet and kind of dash out, and they have basically just enough time to kind of realize that there was someone in this room, this stable with them. They turn around in surprise and call after you, and you turn back and throw this shatter spell kind of over your shoulder. It zips out towards the space above their heads, and there's this crack, almost like of thunder, as the remaining part of this structure, pieces of it just completely splinter under the force of this spell and begin to just crumble inward, disappearing into a cloud of dust and ether smoke that's kicked up. What would the two of you like to do next?
Ingvaraad's going to like rush in while there's chaos and summon a spiritual weapon, and basically just going to stand there and begin battering down on these two while there's like chaos and stones and all the rest.
You wade in and you prepare your spell, and just about the time that you close to where the spell would be finished and you would know you would need it, you can see the crumpled forms of these two individuals lying motionless underneath pieces of rubble that are easily fatal. So if you wish to, you can continue, but you're fairly certain that they have expired.
Okay. I'm fairly certain is enough for Ingvaraad. She'll like get close still and just like make sure and like give it a few moments and like watch somewhat carefully. But when it seems like it's okay, she'll call for Katya.
And seeing that she's not swinging, that Ingvaraad's not swinging, attacking, I would immediately come running in there and seeing the crumpled bodies, I'm kind of looking around to see if I can still see the sword in the debris. Because I imagine at this point, maybe 20, 30 seconds has gone by.
If even that, yeah. So yeah, you can see it. It's partially buried. It would probably take a little bit of work to get it free from where it is currently.
At this point, time is no longer, doesn't matter. I'm back within 5 feet of it, so it'll stay. Do you think any more will come? Either for the sword or to investigate this sound?
It's possible. I think likely that how many of them remain on the ship are likely already entangled. We should go there now, I think.
Okay, whatever you say. And
Or at least closer, so that if they have to make an escape, we can help them.
I wonder if... Well, I know with those carnage hounds, I kind of fucked that up. Maybe it would be better if I stay at a distance, and with just a wave, there's just kind of a, and the greatsword just sort of vanishes. Maybe there's a slight shifting of stone where it was there. And then I'll make a motion in the air and I'll summon a longbow. The shadow will just sort of coalesce into my hands. Maybe I should learn to take things from a distance. I could perhaps, like you said, we can move up and we can cover them from outside. And I'm saying this to you does this sound like a good idea?
Yeah, she would look and nod. That seems wise. Very wise, Katya. I think you're better suited to being on the outside of the tumult and the skirmish.
Katya, as you are bending and shaping the shadow, pulling it away from where you had it embedded, something catches your attention in one of these deepening shadows of dusk. For just the briefest of instances, you see a face. This rather roundish, moon-like visage peering at you from this dark shadow. It takes you just a second to realize that it's the young, beardless face of Belos. His eyes full of concern and looking every bit as real as it did the last time you saw it on what was his last day in the Down Under.
I think there's possibly a very obvious hesitation, almost like if Ingvaraad's paying close attention to me, I very much freeze up for even if it's just for a moment. But it's very evident, I guess. Kind of like when somebody, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like when you're talking to somebody or doing something and they stop because they think they hear something. But I imagine you're looking at my, towering over me, as you do, you're probably just looking from above and behind, and there's just that tensing moment as I'm looking down into the shadow. I don't say anything.
I think Ingvaraad stops and like looks as if there must be a threat because you've like stopped, and like also stops and like listens really carefully to see if that's what you've heard, something. But then seeing no threat, will say, "Katya."
I shake my head. I'm sorry, it's nothing. I tend to see things in the shadows in the dark places that can't possibly be there. And as I'm saying this, I'm sort of staring into the shadow that I'm reshaping and reforming. And then looking up at you for a moment, and then just kind of, it's nothing. It's nothing to worry about. And turning away quickly, so that
She'll,
you can't read my face.
Ingvaraad will put a hand on her shoulder, and like give a squeeze and say, "You shouldn't look too long into shadows. Only darkness dwells there. It's not good."
And you would feel as you touch her shoulders, you feel the for her age, Katya is pretty strong, and as a delver, she's got, she's wiry, but there's a tenseness in the cords of her neck and the muscles there that almost stiffen at your touch before softening just a bit under your sort of matronly gesture. But she says nothing.
Ingvaraad will just like look into the distance and think what, like how she can stop this or like help, but she doesn't know how. Like shouting at Katya is not going to help, and she doesn't have like any sort of solution, so she doesn't know what to do. She'll just like squeeze your shoulder again. The others will need us.
Yes, and I will be ready, as the bow is now fully formed. Along with the, as I say that, I imagine some of that shadow dripping off of the bow and forming the quiver with the arrows.
As the two of you then turn and head back towards the temple, which we now go back to, where Bastaarad and Kalp are kind of somewhat ganging up on this prone Kalandari on the floor, who's starting to come to from its dizziness and starting to try to wrestle with the figures that are grabbing it.
Hoping to keep just that one hand clasped over his mouth. Bastaarad will reach into the pouch at his side and pull out one of the vials of ether from earlier that we received, and
I'm going to hold up my hand and then just say, and then I hold up one in my hand. And then just say I can administer it if.
Still on the ground wrestling with this guy. Bastaarad just kind of looks up for a moment,
just hold on to him,
and he just wants to kind of pry the guy's mouth open and try to shove the vial inside.
And I lean over and I grab him by the forehead and I pull his eyelids up and I put the ether vial up to his mouth, and I say in Elven, I say, "Drink, brother. Breathe it in."
You shove this vial into his mouth, Bastaarad, and immediately, Kalp, you're on top of him, watching his eyes widen as he realizes he's trapped, that there's no escaping this bonekin's grasp on him. The vial, you think it sounds like it's shattered. You can hear him calling out in pain. And as he kind of winces and inhales sharply, Kalp, he draws the ether from this secondary vial up into his nose. And you can watch as his pupils dilate and his head kind of starts to lull backwards a little. His breathing becomes less erratic and he grows limp.
Bastaarad will try as quickly as he can to just start dragging this guy's body out of sight and try to find some sort of rubble to hide him either behind or under.
I'm going to try to help, but I'm not that strong, so I'm more clearing the way for you.
The armor is probably the heaviest thing about this elf. But even still, Bastaarad, you're a bonekin. You probably have close to 2 feet of height on this individual and are able to drag him over to the side with very little trouble, especially with Kalp's aid. And you can hear him starting to gurgle. You're pretty sure that he's bleeding profusely from his mouth. If you look, yes, he's absolutely just a fount of blood kind of pouring down his chin. This kind of, again, he's only got part of a face that's actually physical. The rest of it is this cracked, hollow blue glow that seems to, it's like smoke that seems to hold its shape in the shape of a face. And this blood has covered parts of it enough to give it full 3-dimensionality again. And you're pretty sure that he's probably not going to live much longer.
Bastaarad will sigh and kneel down next to the man, kind of look at him with this mix of pity and disgust, and he'll, even only half believing the words, maybe not even that, will whisper a quiet prayer over the man and put his hand on the sleeping man's forehead, and he'll cast Spare the Dying if it matters, just to stabilize him and leave him unconscious. And he shouldn't have gotten in the way. Shouldn't have gotten mixed up with these people. Look what those drugs do to these freaks.
He's with the Renovat. Trust me.
About that time, Darian, you hear the sound of the other Kalandari approaching back down the hallway.
Yeah, Darian will kind of like poke his arm out from where he is in the alcove, and try to just like wave silently to get the attention of the others, and just like point towards the hallway, but then kind of grab Viddaraas next to him and like kind of pull back in to the alcove a little bit, so that in the event if people get spotted, that it's just the two of them that get seen, and that they might be able to like dash past while they're distracted. But he'll at least try to signal quietly to his companions that company is on the way. And he'll lean into Viddaraas before the other two get spotted. You'll need to slip past under Bastaarad's shadow magic. It should keep us hidden. We cannot let them delay. If they get caught in help is called, we will never get through. But if we slip by before the alarm goes up, we can recover your stolen goods.
She nods. You can see the pulse in her neck and forehead is just racing as she has sweat beaded up all over. And though she seems resolute, you can tell she's terrified.
Arian will put a hand on her shoulder, trying to keep her calm. He'll just say as quietly as he can, "Don't worry. I know my way around these things. You'll be okay." He'll lie.
She seems to be eager to accept the lie, and nods a little more vehemently. It's about this time that the second Kalandari steps into the room, speaking casually in Elven, as if to explain that the noise was nothing, or at least they couldn't find anything. And he's probably a full 3 or 4 steps into the room before he realizes that it's entirely different than the way he left it. It takes him a second to look up and find where his companion went.
And I'm going to throw a shout with prestidigitation that kind of mimics the voice that I remember hearing from the other guy. And just say, "Brother, I need your help," in Elven. And then have Bastaarad and I were hiding, leaning up against the wall, hiding, seeing if it'll lure him out.
Okay. So roll performance. Or deception, either way.
That is a dirty 20.
Hey, excellent. Okay. So you use this particular dwarf's dialect, slightly different than your own, and throw this illusory voice out, and he turns and rushes in the direction of the voice, kind of coming to the upturned table that you kind of hid this other Kalandari behind. He comes up to the table and kind of looks down, and you can see the confusion again in his body language as he notices his companion laid out, maskless and bleeding from the mouth. He rushes around the table and kneels down, trying to see what's going on.
I'm going to grab Viddaraas by the shoulder and just kind of give her a nod, and try to, while they're doing that, pull the two of us down the hallway further in.
Bastaarad will run out and say, "Oh, thank goodness you're here," to the new one, the one that just showed up. "We were trying to find someone to help. We came in and this man had been assaulted. We heard him screaming for help. Did you not hear?"
Jeez.
He kind of looks from his friend up towards you, Bastaarad.
And I want to try to get on the other side of him to where Culp is. Try to immediately get
put him between the two of you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's easily able to do that. He looks up at you and he says, "You're a bonekin. What are you doing here?" And he kind of stands to his feet and begins to reach for the sword at his belt.
Hey, there's no need for that. We were meant to bring these. And I start producing the vials that are in my bag. There's still 8. This was meant for you and your partner. And we came upon you. Please.
He rounds on the second voice. You travel with a bonekin?
He's a servant. Give me a break. Can't you see the callousness around his neck?
Someone must hold the luggage and find the way forward. He just says with somewhat gritted teeth, but trying to sell the lie at the same time.
So I begin walking forward with the vials, just not rushing forward, but edging forward to get close to him. And if he'll let me.
He seems kind of distracted by the fact that these vials are present and being handed over, but also by trying to take in the story of this bonekin, and then realizes, he says, "No, what happened? What happened to him?" And he points down to his friend.
That's the confusion that we're in. Do I look like someone who would assault one of my own? Don't you know me? Look at my face. And I start doing my hand like this so that Bastaarad might see that I'm, trying to get him to come around the guy. Look at me. Don't I look familiar to you? You know my family.
Bastaarad would like to go like if I'm now behind him, I want to just try to, as quietly as possible, pull the quarterstaff from my back and just go straight for straight down on his head. I just want to try to take this guy out as quickly as possible.
Okay. So go ahead and roll with advantage.
Ooh. That's a good first roll. And a better second roll. So that's going to be a 23 to hit.
Yes. That will absolutely succeed. Okay, so roll your damage as if a critical strike.
Oof. What is crit for this game again?
I do maximum damage, so your full die plus your modifiers, and then you roll a second time and add your modifiers a second time.
Okay. 11 overall.
Okay. There's this very loud, hollow thump as you collide with the back of his skull through the heavy cloth of his hood. And he straightens for a second and then drops to his knees with this settling of his metal armor, and then face down into the ground right at Kalp's feet.
And I just roll him over and I start pilfering him. As I drop the vials back into my pouch, I start handing anything off to Bastaarad that seems like it's worthwhile of taking.
Let's do this later. Come on, we've got people to protect. I'm not supposed to be this far from Viddaraas.
Let's and we just kind of throw him under the table with the other guy.
And I think it's probably at that moment, as you two are casually tossing this Kalandari off to the side, that Ingvaraad and Katya kind of come in through the open door. How does that exchange go?
You're just in time, I think. These two were napping.
It looks like we are a little late to the party.
We should move quickly. Viddaraas is alone with Darian. He'll look to Ingvaraad.
She's just going to lose her mind immediately. She's going to look at him. What did I tell you?
It was the only way she could get past without getting her skull split. Be happy she's alive. Let's go.
We have all the ether, so we're fine. And I start walking away.
As the four of your number have reconvened and are now going to start heading deeper into the temple, we go to Darian in Viddaraas. You have snuck your way through several rooms of this temple. Again, most of the doors are just torn asunder. So there's no cause for making noise passing from room to room. It's fairly easy to make your way through here. And again, plenty of knocked over furniture, partially collapsed walls, columns that have fallen over and stuff to form hiding places and ways to tuck yourself away. You've managed to work your way kind of to the open courtyard of this temple. where this prayer tower rises up from the middle, some probably 50 feet, give or take. And you can see, Darian, there's all manner of crates, sacks, barrels, things of that nature that seem to be kind of have been put at the ready, and it's very obvious that they're being loaded on board this ship. You don't see any more Kalandari around. The individuals that are preparing these crates to be loaded are surprisingly, perhaps, human. And Darian, if you would please, tell me something about these individuals that is unmistakable, that identifies them as slavers.
Interesting.
It can be anything.
I think it's something that he's seen before. It's almost even barely visible right now. But there's this marking that he's seen among some crews and among some people that he's come across. A tattoo actually that's kind of like towards the base of the neck on the right side, like just below the jaw. This is kind of like strange, like interlocking rings with these like ornamentations around either of them, kind of form these weird, almost spiraling patterns between the two of them. They like interlock in this very like exact, precise way that can't be coincidence. Like it's actually surprising the craftsmanship of such a tattoo for how small it is. But he knows that that mark is like this very specific group that he's seen before, and they're always moving people and products. And the group, would call those the same thing.
You see these humans gathering these crates, trying to organize them for loading aboard the ship. And one of the lead slavers is instructing the rest of them to kind of place this collection of crates, just a few of them, 2 or 3, in a very specific, precise place. They do so and then back away, and he looks up directly towards the ship, and you see him make a real wide, like, hand gesture, waving his hands back and forth. You hear a noise, and there's a beam of light that hits on the crates, and you can tell just by the way that the light forms and starts to spread that this is ether infused light. And then there's a woof, 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 woof noise as these large rings fall downward and make almost like a stack with space between them. And each one of these rings looks like it's made out of maybe Colossiah bone. And it's etched with all kinds of arcane runes all the way around each one of them. These things come down into this stack, and there's this noise, and the crates disappear up this beam of light, and then the rings retract, and they start doing it all over again.
Yeah, Darian will look with like this strange curiosity, like he's seen slavers work, but not with this sort of thing and not with these types of people. So it would be intriguing to him for a moment. And then he'd immediately kind of snap back into practical mode and begin looking at how they're taking these boxes and stacking them. And he's going to try to figure out like if there's any reliable pattern, like if they're taking the boxes from the same corner each time and putting them in the same arrangement. And that sort of thing, or if they're just kind of taking from the pile at random.
The leader looks like he's working from a manifest. There's a list that he's got with him that he keeps referencing, and then he'll instruct them which crates in particular that he brings out. And you can see each time that they make one of these selection of crates that it's always kind of the same. It always fills the same area, basically, before these rings come back down and retrieve them. It's never any larger than that space. It's about this time that you can hear the slight noises that the rest of the group are making coming up behind you. Doesn't look like the slavers have heard them yet, but they probably will if they get much closer.
Yeah, Darian would like turn in surprise as he hears noise behind them, like certain that it's like more guards that have come back, and that they're about to be discovered. And he would like kind of grab at towards Viddaraas, just out of reaction, just in case, and then see that it's companions. And then he would just like put his hands up, like stop, and then like a finger up to his mouth, signaling that there's people, and that they'll be heard.
Okay. So what is the plan from this point, Darian? Are you just going to watch them load all of these crates, or do you plan to intervene in some manner?
Darian's going to lean over towards Viddaraas, and say, I'm not sure what's in those crates or if there's space, but if we could get into them, it would get us onto the ship. It would be risky, but I'm not sure if there's any other way.
She kind of looks over your shoulder to where she can see the concerned faces of Bastaarad and Ingvaraad. And you can see the muscles in her jaw kind of clench. She looks down at you and says, let's do it.
Follow me exactly. I need to be precise.
She nods.
Let's kind of like follow how these people are moving back and forth, grabbing the boxes. I basically like to, if it be possible, in any reasonable way, to sneak the two of us towards the crates, kind of using them as cover. If they're easily openable, I'd like to try to like pry a piece up to see if I can see inside and see if what these crates are filled with and if there'd be any room in them. But if that's not possible, then I'd at least like to get us closer.
Okay, so roll me another stealth roll if you would, please.
Yes, sir. And thanks to Pass Without a Trace, that is going to be a 33.
No way, no how do any of them see or hear you. If any of them have seen you before, they probably don't even remember that you exist. You sneak up and are able to find a crate that has not yet been closed. And you see that it is that it does contain several suits of armor. They're not Kalandari armor, mind you, but they are certainly elven armor. Very nice suits. Maybe 3, possibly even 4 that have been placed inside of here. Now, there's not a lot of room in the box, as is. There would be plenty of room for you and, excuse me, for you and Viddaraas to climb inside this box, but you would have to remove the armor first.
He's gonna like lift a finger up, and just to Viddaraas, he's gonna like look around, and if the box is positioned in the stack in such a way that it would be possible, I'd like to like take the armor out and basically use the stack of boxes as cover for the pile of armor, so that they won't be able to see it until they like work all the way through the crates. I don't know if that would be possible with the arrangement.
Sure, absolutely. Especially with what you got on your stealth roll. I mean, this is basically a prime situation for what you were looking for. So you work quickly and as quietly as possible to kind of unload this armor. Luckily, they did a decent job of packing it with, looks like, cloth and hay, things of that nature, to try to keep it protected, which also helps to keep it quiet. You offload this stuff, kind of finding a large collection of boxes to kind of stack it behind. And as you and Viddaraas are doing this, and then I'm assuming climbing in the crate, the rest of you, you're kind of back a ways where Darian had bid you to all stay. Ingvaraad and Bastaarad, you see Viddaraas give you this look, almost, yeah, definitely challenging. She seems to set her face in determination before she speaks with Darian, and the two of them turn and disappear from view.
Bastaarad will hold a hand up to Ingvaraad and Katya and just like quiet, and he'll kind of stay, and he'll start walking, very creeping again himself towards them to go talk to Viddaraas and see what's going on.
Okay, roll me a stealth check, please.
Well, it's at least 21 and 23.
Likewise, you manage to creep forward with stealth and ease, and you can see it looks like Darian is handing pieces of armor to Viddaraas out of one of these crates, and she's placing them kind of in a pile nearby.
What are you doing? What's happening?
She jumps.
What? Quiet.
Where? She kind of looks to Darian. We're going to get on board the ship.
Oh, good. You found a way for us to board. All right, how are we
Darian
doing
will
this?
look down at the crate, and I'm guessing the crate would like barely fit the two of them, if anything.
Yeah, like you and this small bonekin woman would take up the majority of this crate. Bastaarad, he would need a crate of this on his own.
Yeah, Darian will kind of frown, actually, seeing Bastaarad there. Like he was hoping that they would make it away before the others caught up, because he knows that this is not going to be an easy conversation. I'll just say, I found a way for us to get on, and I'll like point between him and Viddaraas. And I'll nod down towards the empty crate. These are being loaded on.
Oh, no, there's got to be another way. You can't be serious. You're not taking her alone.
I'm right here.
Well, you have, and I'll kind of like nod over towards the people loading the crates. You have about 1 or 2 minutes to tell me a better idea, or else, and I'll start like climbing in the crate.
He'll look to Viddaraas, and the anger on his face that was bright and sort of right on the surface for Darian, and he turns to Viddaraas and it sort of melts just a little bit. Ingvaraad is going to kill me for this, but I know that there's no way I'm going to stop you from getting in that crate and getting on that ship. So I'll make sure we make a hell of a lot of noise down here if anything happens up there. Just try to get a signal to us if you can. If you need anything, we'll be as loud as we can. Get back safe, and he'll turn back to Darian, back like his face is angry again. If anything happens to her, you better not be coming back.
If anything happens to her, I wouldn't want to come back. That would be suicide. I'll smile. But nothing's going to happen.
careful.
Da,
And he'll creep back. Oh, sorry. Yeah. What? Yes.
you're going to follow us, right? You and Auntie Ingvaraad, you're coming.
We'll do whatever we can to get on that ship. But you just need to be as quiet as possible and as quick as possible.
She nods. And she ducks into the crate with Darian.
And Bastaarad will hurry back to Ingvaraad for his flogging.
So the rest of you, where the three of you stand, having waited an agonizing minute or two, you see Bastaarad making his way back, but still see no sign of the other two.
They found a way for the two of them to get on. We need to either find another way on or make a lot of noise. Ingvaraad, I know what you're going to say, but again, there is nothing that I can do
It's
to
the right
stop
idea.
that.
She has to do it.
Oh, very well. My apologies for assuming.
No, you're right to assume. I always. And she shakes her head. We should make noise.
That's what I
Bonekin
was
culture is confusing to me.
You're not the only one.
Wait for several long moments, again watching this process of these crates be almost teleported. And
How many slavers are there that we can see from where our vantage point?
there's, I would
Men.
say, probably half a dozen of them.
6 of them.
Mhm.
And I look at them and I say, we can take them.
Let's wait till they get on. They're in that crate there, and he'll point out the crate that they're in. We need to wait till it's loaded.
Yes.
We should find good places to hide and see if we can spring some sort of a trap on them once they're on board. See if we can cause a distraction.
So you wait a long moment, long enough to perhaps start to be concerned that additional Kalandari may return from their patrols. When they finally move the target crate out into the center of this courtyard, where the rest of them have been being brought aboard the ship. And you all wait with bated breath as the men discuss how heavy the crate is, cursing it. One of them even kicks it. The leader then makes the motions, these exaggerated waves above his head, and the crates disappear. And then they begin to load another section of them.
They're close together, right?
Relatively. I would say within 40 feet of each other.
Mm.
Do we
Okay.
want to go straight for an attack, or do we want to try to distract some of them with some more of our brilliant subterfuge? It
Yeah,
seemed
we
to
are
work
pretty
so
good at
well
that, right?
before.
If I can go in and get them close enough as they're walking up to talk to me, because I'm a sky elf, they might come up to talk to me, and I can just web them all.
That may be a good start. We want to try to draw anyone from the ship here as well, so we want to make some commotion.
Well, I can definitely act like a spoiled child, or a spoiled noble, as it were. I've seen enough of it. But I don't want to overstep anyone. Katya is very good at distractions as well.
I am not exactly known for my subtlety. But if you want to make some noise, drop a few of these slavers, I can do this.
So I begin casting, as I'm moving my hands across my armor, I'm cleaning myself up with prestidigitation. Say, okay, I'm going to lead this, and I'm going to call the leader over and start berating them as to their latency and stuff. And you guys move in for, you guys pounce. Okay?
I will cover you from up here.
You good with that?
Are you asking if
Okay,
I'm good? You're asking if
you're
I'm good
good
with
with
my bow or the plan?
Yeah, I can see the color of that bow. It looks like the color I'm used to. I think you're good with it. I recognize that color. He looks at everyone else. Okay. Ingvaraad?
I stand ready.
All right. And he just starts walking out there with his hands on his sword belt like a rooster. And basically he starts repositioning his armor, and he starts walking around and looking at the crates, and with his nose kind of held up high, and he gets close enough to the lead one, and he starts snapping his fingers. What?
Yeah, it doesn't take him long before he spins, kind of regards you with like a slight tilt to his head.
Yes, what is taking so long? I mean, come on. We need to get this moving. Bring your men here. We need to talk. Now.
Excuse me. Who are you?
Why are you asking who I am?
Because I don't recognize your face.
Regardless of who I am, I'm in charge here. I was sent by the leader. Deception, I guess. Or intimidation.
Yes, please. Probably deception at
All
this
right.
stage.
Okay, so that one is a 19 for deception.
He looks at you and he says, "The Cardinals sent you."
Anyone else? Do I need to give you my papers or something? Come on.
Are you from the Barterdom?
Well, are we going to sit here and waste time about this? We are on a schedule, and you are already late.
He puts his hands across his chest and he says, "You're going to show me some papers.
I'm not going to show you shit." And I bring your men here now.
Bastaarad shoots a worried look at Ingvaraad and Katya watching this go on, crouched behind some rubble.
He kind of looks you up and down, Kalp. He says, "No, I don't think I need my men to teach you a lesson in manners."
Oh,
He reaches to his belt and he starts to draw the scimitar from its sheath.
Okay. How far away from me is he?
He's like 10 feet away from you.
Okay. So are his men maybe around a 20-foot area with it close to me?
I would say there's probably at least 4 of them that are within that range.
Okay. So I am going to begin casting web on them. So they need to make a dexterity check. And that is going to be a DC 12.
They rolled a 1. So
Oh.
All right. So what does it look like as your web kind of shoots out and catches the 4 of them and the leader up in them?
I am going to bring my hands out, and I'm going to say, "You're an insolent fool. You'll pay for this." As I bring my hands forward and just sort of, as like a maestro, I bring them forward, and just sort of, as I'm bringing up the wave of something, it's just like this. In a distance, you see this eruption of web that just sort of explodes over them. So 4 of them, you're done, is what I say to him.
All right. And as the majority of these slavers are kind of caught off guard and engulfed in these spider-like webs, what are the rest of you doing?
I want to try to find. Oh, go for it.
How many are there that are not caught in the? You said there were half a dozen down here, so there's
Correct.
What, 1 or 2 that aren't caught in the web?
There are 2.
As soon as he fires off the web, I'm going to take a shot at one of them that are not in the web. And as a bonus action, I'm going to cast Hexblade's Curse on this, which will give me an additional bonus to attack rolls and such. And I'm going to shoot my bow for a 17 plus charisma is a 19, which also, because of Hexblade's Curse, is a critical hit.
Yes. These slavers are minions. So you can describe what this powerful shot looks like.
I think I'm even surprised because though I haven't told anybody this is the first time I've ever used a bow using this ability. I've seen people fire bows, and so I knew what to do. And because of the shadow magic, it's almost like it's wielding me rather than I wield it. And as I take the shot, I just sort of know where to place it. And before, I imagine one of this slaver is just starting to realize what's happened with the web erupting and is reaching for his weapon when a shadowy black arrow emerges through his heart. And before he hits the ground, that arrow just dissipates into shadow. And then I sort of lean against the rock or whatever it is I'm kind of taking cover against, just kind of look at the bow and Thrist Fiend. And a smile crawls across my face.
And the bonekin?
Ingvaraad will run forward towards one of the webmen, I guess. And she's going to take her hammer and boom on the shield. And as she does that, above her, a hammer is going to hit this golden anvil. Boom, that's her spiritual weapon, which will float near her. She's going to basically swing at 2 of the guys in the web.
Excellent.
So it's a 15 on the die, which probably will do it.
Yes.
I think it's a 20 something all up. And a 16 on the die, which is even better.
Absolutely. Both of them will make contact.
Okay.
So yeah, what does that look like? Is it as both of these bludgeoning attacks manage to take out 2 more of them?
Yeah, so she, like I say, she summons a spiritual weapon as she runs. And as she swings back the hammer and brings it down on one of them, the hammer that floats sort of follows that exact same arc and hits another at the same time. And there's this sort of ringing hammer noise as she pulls back down.
They both collapse under the weight of these hammer blows, and the webs bind them, their bundles up even tighter as they kind of roll to a stop somewhere nearby. That leaves 3 of these individuals still standing, 2 of them stuck in the web, and 1 free.
Bastaarad will charge the free one still standing, and swing, kind of going with, run in with actually just literally screaming, trying to legitimately make some noise with this fight. And he'll go for a sort of baseball bat style swing on the guy with the quarterstaff, 2-handed.
This is against the one that's not in the webbing?
Right.
Okay.
19 to hit.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, just grab it.
That's right. So this, as he swings this thing just sideways, it connects with the guy, and he bends in a really unnatural fashion as you can hear this loud as his spine just sort of snaps and he falls limp on the ground. Bastaarad follows through with the motion, though, kind of pushing him a little further as he falls. And then, would I be close enough to take one of my unarmed bonus attacks at one of the webbed guys? Could I go for a kick?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the room's not overly large.
Okay. That's a 19 on the die.
Yep.
So the other one, he'll just after following through with that, he uses the momentum from that to kind of follow through with a spin with a kick, and just kicks one of them right in the face, kind of just snapping his head back.
There's an audible snap as you can hear his neck break under the force of your immense foot against his jaw. And there's quite a bit of ruckus as these men were all screaming out, and the skirmish erupted. So much so that high above you on the deck of this ship, where these crates have been placed and are now being loaded by additional deckhands, you can hear, Darian, the noise down below you, the echo kind of bouncing up towards you off of the stone of the city. And you can start to hear the men on deck discussing all of the noise, and you hear them all rushing to the side of the ship to stare over the gunwale down at what's going on.
Yeah, as soon as he kind of hears the commotion and then hears the unmistakable thunk, thunk, thunk of the footsteps of all these men going away from them, in the darkness, Darian will reach down to where he knows his dagger is and basically use that to shove up between the lid of the crate and the side, so he can basically use it to get under the lid and pry it open. And then once the light starts to creep in, he'll put a hand on Viddaraas and whisper, "We're distracted. We need to get out of the crate now, and we need to find another place." And without even necessarily giving time to sit and discuss, he'll yank on the dagger to knock the lid off the top, and then use his hand to kind of prop it up just a little bit to give her enough space to crawl out, where he'll shortly be behind.
2 of you crawl out of this crate and onto the deck of the ship amid the confusion, and you make your way a short distance away from where some of these sailors and slavers are gathered to crouch amongst a different selection of crates. These are different looking, different in design. These are more elven, as opposed to some of these crude crates that they've been loading these relics in. One of them just happens to be open, Darian. And when you look inside, you can see that this crate is filled with 4 large glass and scrollwork metal tanks filled with ether. Not just any ether. This is a high-end processed form of ether known as zephyrs. This is essentially the highest end narcotic form of ether that you have ever heard of. This is probably the first time that you've ever seen it. But you know the symbol that is usually set on the outside of these tanks. That is where we're going to take our break. So, 5 to 10 minutes. Go to the bathroom, refill your drinks, kiss your spouse, smoke them if you got them, etc., etc. If you are tuning in this evening, thank you very, very much for giving us a watch. If you're watching in the future, thank you equally. And yeah, stick around. We'll be right back, and we'll finish this all up. All right. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you're having a good week. Hopefully everybody's having a good week. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day for any and all of you who do celebrate. Smooch on the loved one. Tell them you love them. We've got quite a few people tuning in this evening. See Karen, Jason, Alan, Josh, and my cousin Brian. Hey, Brian. What's up? Should be getting back to it here in just a couple minutes. Everybody gets back. I can't tell. Is Dave there? Doesn't look like it. Nope.
Nope.
We have an empty Dave chair. It's a badass room, though. It's got a Mandalorian flag, Kylo Ren poster, maybe. I see that that super sexy. I just completely had a brain fart. The Abtab Dwarven City lightning
Stone Rift.
Stone Rift.
Stone Rift.
That's it. Yeah, that isometric poster. Solo.
That's John Pintar did that, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. There's the man himself. What a bold entrance. All right. Everybody ready?
Heard you talking about me.
Hey, Dave, where are you rolling your dice?
Dice tray. It's beautiful. It's right behind me. But
I didn't see it by the helmet where I had seen it in a previous picture. That's why I asked.
yeah, it's here.
It is sweet.
That's huge.
God, that thing is gorgeous.
That's what she said. That's what she.
Oh boy.
Times 2.
All right. So we just left off with the 4 individuals down in the temple courtyard, very handily defeating these slavers, while on board the ship, Viddaraas and Darian have departed, and Darian has found himself face to face with a crate filled with Zephyrs, these large tanks. Each tank is probably roughly the size of Darian's torso. So what is Darian's response to this?
Darian's hand like goes up to his mouth like he's walked into a gruesome murder scene. It catches him that off guard. Probably even more so than murder scenes that he stumbled on before. And his hand will like subconsciously go up to his neck where part of his skin is like gray and like near scaly from like his long aether use to like scratch at it. Almost to the point where it'll start to bleed.
Viddaraas kind of looks at you. Oh, what are you doing?
He'll like shake his head, and turn around and look back at her. Sorry. Anyways, you're gonna have to lead from now on. I don't know what we're looking for. You do.
She nods. Right. She kind of looks around. You can see very, very clearly that whatever plan that she had didn't extend this far. Maybe it's underneath us. She kind of gestures with her hand to the deck that you're standing on.
And Darian will like look confused and he'll even like look down at the ground, quizzically. Beneath us, like under the deck.
Deck, yes, deck. Under the deck.
You're sure it's not up here?
She kind of looks around. I don't think so. No.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Let's go. And he'll like turn around, like one more like look down at this crate of Zephyrs. And if they weren't so large, he would even consider trying to sneak one into his pack, but knowing that he couldn't possibly take one right now, the temptation is, thankfully to him, not able to be acted upon quite yet. And he'll try to break his gaze from it and clear it from his mind as best he can to follow Viddaraas, apparently down below deck.
The two of you, probably through your suggestion more than hers, are able to find one of the small step ladders that leads from this deck down into the cargo hold below. And as you do so, we head back down into the courtyard where the four of you have finished off the remaining slaver and stand now in this empty courtyard, staring up at the ship above you. What would you like to do?
I think we should try to disappear, make them chase us. Maybe we can lie in wait, some sort of an ambush or something. I don't think if we're out here too long, it could be a massacre.
I don't think they're going to chase us. How many more crates are left?
Quite a few. Probably 3 or 4 dozen at least.
And how far up was it again? About 120 feet, 300 feet?
About 200 feet.
We might be able to draw them out if we start destroying what they're here for. We set the crates on fire. Maybe they come to put them out. We need to draw people off of that ship. Viddaraas and Darian are by themselves up there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that they could just sail away, though. So we need to find out
in these crates.
Yeah, what's in these crates? So I start going to open the crates and see what's in them.
The one that they were climbing into had armor in it. That's what they were taking out. But
yeah, you pop open one of these nearby crates, and you find just tomes, just books, stacked up inside of this particular crate, and they're all written in Elvish, and they have the look of religious text. Some of them are dinged up and dog-eared. Some of them are missing covers. Several of them have scorched edges on them. It definitely looks like they are not in the best of shape, but they must be important to someone.
Are they texts that I would recognize? Or are they like specifically Elvish?
They are specifically Elvish, but there might be a few like illuminated pages and things like that you've seen probably copies of. So you'd probably be able to identify some of them.
The text that I would recognize.
Possibly. It depends on how devout you are.
valuable, though, certainly.
Yes, especially to the right buyer.
Yeah, I'd say as much to them that these are like look like actual copies or like legitimately like first editions of some of these religious texts.
That's accurate.
All right, so the plan is to try to start destroying some of these crates.
I would
Try
rather
to-
not destroy them, but well, shit. Where is this rope that's anchoring them?
So there's a prayer tower on one side of the courtyard where you guys are, and it rises up about 50 feet in the air. And from the top of this prayer tower, where the caller would announce prayer, is where this tether anchor is secured.
So airships, I would imagine, like other ships, airships, meaning airplane, have arm signals, right? When they're landing.
Yeah, probably something to that effect.
And would you agree that I might be familiar with that to a certain degree because I worked in the warehouse and worked in the dock loading the ships and so on?
Yeah, I would say that's reasonable. Spending time,
Okay.
on airships and things, it's at least something that you would have seen more than once.
Okay. So would you say that how verbose is it?
I would
We're
say,
probably walking into creation territory here.
yeah, it's probably rudimentary at best, I would imagine.
Right.
A few simple commands that can be conveyed at length visually.
Mm-hmm. So I begin doing these long pronounced symbols of emergent, which is important or emergent. Want. Come. So emergent, want, come. So if you want these, if they're important to you, you need to come down here. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 3 different gestures that I am making, and I'm very pronounced in my gestures towards the sky.
Right. Okay. Roll me. Roll me a charisma check. If you have proficiency in sky vehicles, you can add your proficiency bonus.
So that is a total of a 19.
Okay. So you make these pronounced gestures, and eventually, after a moment, you hear this elevator activate. This beam of light appears, and these rings start to come down with this as they start to stack up on each other. You see 4 of these slavers kind of appear and materialize in this beam of ether light. And then the rings kind of raise up and leave them behind, standing in this courtyard. They have their weapons drawn, facing like backs to one another. One of them says, "Who are you?"
You said more slavers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought we were speaking to someone important here.
What do you want?
I want to speak to someone important. I thought I just said that. And I just kind of take this posture again where I'm like this aloof noble.
Bastaarad is standing over the crate of open books with one of them in his hand and a tinderbox in the other, kind of idly striking, like almost striking, running the flint over the steel.
They shake their head. You don't understand who you're picking a fight with. It's not us. We don't care about these things.
Who's in charge then?
The Kalandari. Of course.
Well, then send them down.
He kind of looks to the others. They're all not on board the ship.
Oh, you're fucked then.
How
They
many
all
are
raise
there?
their weapons and began moving towards you.
2 of them?
All of them. All
How
four.
many of them are there? 4. Okay. This is not going to end well for you.
No. Not likely.
Did you say they drew their weapons and started advancing toward him?
Yes.
Because if they're showing hostility, I'm going to take one out
Okay.
or attempt to.
Yeah, Ingvaraad just cracks her neck, and like the hammer is still floating in the air. She just like shakes her head at them, like this is unwise.
Yeah, they certainly have misjudged the situation they have stepped in.
Bastaarad will kind of laugh. He's like, do you not see the broken and battered remnants of your compatriots? Think one more time about what you do now, for maybe the last thing you do.
As my arrow flies. I got a 12.
12 is not quite enough to hit. It zooms by one of their shoulders and clatters off of the stonework.
The next one's between your eyes.
I save.
This is a waste of life. Your companions are already dead.
Would you like to roll a persuasion, Ingvaraad? You can have advantage on this roll if you'd like.
Oh, I'm muted. That's a crit with advantage.
Oh, okay. Yep. They have started to advance at you, and the one closest to you, Ingvaraad, seeing this floating divine hammer, as well as the fact that you are a confident bonekin warrior in full armor, kind of does take a faltering step back and kind of holds his hand out. Maybe we should maybe we should listen to what they have to say. And the rest kind of come up short. One of them apparently taking an arrow almost to the shoulder in the process, and kind of steps back even closer, bringing them very tight-knit back to the center where they appeared. All right. Look, we're all friends here, right?
Really? I don't know you.
Well,
Do you know me?
we could become friends. I don't see why not.
Well,
Maybe
maybe the weapons? And I look at their weapons.
maybe we work for you now. Maybe we can take these crates, wherever you'd like them.
I don't think you're pretty enough, and you don't have any horns. But we could start with something. You want to start by laying down those weapons?
kind of looks to his companions. They all kind of roll their heads in disbelief and drop their scimitars onto the cobbled stone. They kind of hold their hands up on either side of their head in surrender.
How many more are on board? How many more new friends do we have?
There's 20 still on the ship.
Who's in charge?
Captain is in charge.
Okay. Very good. Who's the captain?
Name is Hamilton.
Hamilton. Doesn't ring a bell. Should I know him?
I know you spend much time in the slave markets.
No, I don't. But how can you bring the ship closer? Just have it pull down about 100 feet?
He shakes his head in disbelief. I don't think the captain's going to oblige.
Okay, so what do you think he's going to oblige?
Personally, I think that the four of us are dead men, regardless. Look, we just want to walk away from this. And if we can make some money doing so, then that's what we'd prefer. Whatever quarrel you have with the Kalandari is none of my business. If you want to kill the captain even, that's fine too.
Humans. So short-sighted.
We should hire them on. They sound so loyal.
Don't they?
We go where the coin is.
Are you getting paid a lot?
They kind of look at each other. This is supposed to be a very good payday for us.
How is it so far?
They fall silent.
That's what I thought. So how do we get on the ship? Because that's the next step.
They kind of exchanged looks again. And you notice that this one that's been talking is wearing this ring that looks like it's made out of a very similar material to these rings that are forming this elevator. And I think that's where we cut back up to the ship. Where Darian and Viddaraas have snuck below the topmost deck. It's dark here. There's lanterns lit. They glow with this faint blue light as they are burning ether as fuel. All of the deckhands seem to be above you now. It's very quiet down here. And you can see a lot of room down here, empty space, likely for where all of these crates are intended to go. And at one end, you can see this, basically like what's a cabin. So like this wall that kind of bisects the entire deck and cordons off a portion of the ship here with a door set in it. And this is not some rickety, the kind of door that you might see on a lot of pirating ships. This is a pretty stout looking door. It looks like it might even be bound in iron, which would be pretty rare to see. Viddaraas kind of looks around and spots this door about the same time that you do. It must be behind that door. Yeah? Don't you think?
Darian will like look with this confused look. I don't know what it is. How am I supposed to know? I can't see through walls either.
Right. Okay. Let's go. She starts moving in that direction.
Darian will just kind of like shake his head, like, "Oh, I don't know what this person is doing, but hopefully they know what they're doing." Though he's sure that she doesn't know any more than he does. But he'll follow anyways, knowing one way or another that he's in a bad shape if something happens to her. And we'll just nod. If you think it's behind there, then we will check behind there and hope.
Do you read Elven by any chance, Darian?
I do not.
Okay. You see Elven script written on the door. And with this door, beside it, there's a placard that's been nailed to the wall beside the door. And it has a familiar crest kind of carved and painted onto it. Kalp, would you please describe your family's crest?
Oh, wow. Hadn't thought of that. So Kalp's family crest is what looks to be a several clouds, and amongst the clouds is a ship emblazoned before the clouds, and it is encircled in an iron ring, and the ship is redwood. It looks to be red, and the clouds appear to be sort of white, a little bit of tinge of blue in them, but the iron ring appears to be iron.
This is the crest emblazoned on the side of the door that you see, along with this Elven script, Darian. The door is very obviously locked. You can see this lock hanging from the outside here, and it's not built into the door. It's like a free swinging lock that's been added to a latch. This thing it's a steel lock, and it looks pretty daunting.
Darian will see the symbol on the plaque, and his eyes will raise at that, and subconsciously he's like let out like a as he sees it, but then like shake his head so that he doesn't get lost in it.
What does it mean?
I've met the people who own this ship. Or at
You have?
least
She looks
not the
at
owners,
you.
at least some of the crew.
She looks at you almost with repulsion. And then kind of checks it and shakes her own head. Can we get past it? Do we need to find who has the key? How do we get inside?
Let me take a look. And Darian's gonna pull out some tools, and I'm gonna try to at least check, because I do have proficiency with thieves' tools and so on. If this is something that I would be able to work through at all, or if it's completely beyond mundane capability.
It certainly looks like you might be able to bypass this lock, but it's going to take quite a bit of skill to do so.
I can try to open it. It won't be easy, but it will probably be easier than asking the crew who has the key.
Hurry.
I'll try. And then I'll set to work.
All right. And as Jeff is doing that, we cut back over to the courtyard below. These 4 slavers still standing back to back, uncertain of their fates. So, what are you going to do with us?
Etherboarding? I don't know.
Ingvaraad,
I mean,
Katya,
what are you saying?
do you leave them alive? I'm not an executioner. They're unarmed men. But I don't trust them as far as I could throw them. Although I could probably throw them pretty far. And he kind of eyes them as he says this. Just kind of making sure they stay in line.
What's the name of that ship?
The oh shit, where did I have it written down? Hold on a second. I have it written down, but I can't. Oh, here it is. It's the
He had to think a bit because it was an elven and he's human.
Yeah, exactly. And he says it in elven, but you know, being an elf, that it translates to righteous indignation.
Who owns that ship?
The captain.
Who's your captain?
Captain Hamilton. He says again, reiterating.
What's your captain's full name?
He kind of looks surprised for a second. I don't know if he's got a full name. It's all I've ever heard him called. Captain Hamilton.
Well,
So
you're gonna live. Maybe we should board the ship. So, what's it gonna take to make that happen?
you want to board the ship?
You're now repeating me.
Well, I'm not a fool to stand between a man and his money. He very quickly reaches up and pulls the ring off of his finger, and he proffers it to you.
Okay.
Here.
So, am I familiar with this?
Yeah, I would say so. It's not a lot of airships that are outfitted with these, but this method of travel is not. It's not entirely uncommon for cargo ships.
Okay. How many can bring up with the ring?
4 at a time. 4 medium-sized creatures at a time.
I guess you're free, huh?
They kind of look at each other as if not sure that they had heard correctly, and then they kind of like smile and nod to one another. All right, then.
I want your ether, though, before you leave.
We don't have any.
Oh, come on.
He kind of nods to the others, and they reach inside the vests that they're wearing, some of the belt pouches they have, and they produce between them, the 4 of them, 6 vials of ether. And they painstakingly hand them over to you.
Are they shaking?
No, just you can tell that they really do not want to part with these.
Money. Okay. Well, it's either this or your lives, right? I'd call you gentlemen, but I don't think that's appropriate.
They finish handing over the ether, and they kind of back away from the group of you, directly mostly away from Ingvaraad and Bastaarad, and make their way towards the hallway that led you here.
Yeah, I think it'd be best to run.
And at that, they do. So
I
what's
think
next?
we can join our friends. If you are ready.
Ingvaraad nods. She like looks at the guys fleeing and wonders if like that was the correct path to take. She thinks it probably was, but they're going to go somewhere and tell someone, and then the other option is cold-blooded murder, and so she kind of like processes it, shrugs, and stands ready.
So
Okay.
you want me to roll an Arcana roll?
These are made in such a way that it's kind of user-friendly, if you will. It takes very little training to learn how to use one of these rings.
Okay.
And again, with it being technology that you've seen in action before, and you've very possibly even used yourself before, it doesn't take much to be able to activate it. So the four of you...
Now, we could be entering a shitstorm, so be ready.
All right. The four of you kind of gather close together, and you activate this Colossiah bone ring. And as you do so, this light bathes the four of you, and these rings start to stack up around you. And as you are pulled up onto the deck of this ship, everyone please roll initiative. Jeff, if you would go ahead and roll for yourself as well. Okay. All right. Okay. So it looks like... Okay. You realize that you're now standing on a wooden deck instead of the carefully laid stonework of the courtyard far below you. And as the light kind of disappears around you, you realize that these slavers all have their weapons drawn, kind of surrounding the area where you're appearing in front of them. They ready themselves and charge forward. Each one of you is going to have one attack made against you with a scimitar. Let's see. Bastaarad, what is your armor class currently?
14.
Okay. That is going to hit you for 5 points of damage. And if you would, please, make a Constitution saving throw. Okay, excellent. This scimitar cuts into you, and you can feel a very strange tingle at the site of the wound as it cuts your flesh, but you manage to shake off whatever possible effects that it might have. All right, next up, Kalp. What is your armor class currently?
17.
Okay, this one comes up and swings at you, and you basically just kind of lean backwards, and it just cuts the air and nothing more. Katya, what is your armor class?
Currently 14.
14, and that barely misses you. You're wearing mage armor?
Yes.
Okay. This is what saves you. This scimitar comes down at you and would have cut you, but this, I imagine it's probably shadow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It kind of like coalesces and condenses underneath this blade, and the blade doesn't bypass the shadow. It stops it cold in its tracks. And Ingvaraad, what is your armor class?
18.
Okay, that is an 18 on the die. So despite your heavy armor, this scimitar is going to bypass, but only does 4 points of damage. However, you will need to make a Constitution saving throw as well.
Uh, 17.
Okay, again, same as Bastaarad. You're able to slough off whatever effects that this poison blade might have. Okay, Kalp, it is your turn.
Oh, I would imagine that these. You said there's a lot of them that are rushing us, right? How many of them?
There were 4 that managed to close immediately, and there's another wave immediately behind them.
Okay, so all within 10 feet?
Yeah, I would say 8 within 10 feet.
Okay. I begin singing a song about, funnily enough, this is an elven song about fried chicken. As grease begins to coat the ground underneath them for a 10-foot square, and they all need to make a dexterity saving throw. It's 12, but they need to make that.
Okay. I'm halfway tempted to make you sing this song. Okay. Okay, well, they did pass. They rolled a 14 on the die.
Oh, well. All right.
So even though they start to slip in this grease, these are individuals that are used to operating and fighting with sea legs. And they very quickly start to employ all kinds of fancy footwork to keep their feet underneath of them, though they are sliding about.
Okay. So as a bonus action, I continued the song, but I changed it up a little bit because it's a chanting, of the Blade song as it begins. And that increases my AC and several other things, but based on what happened.
All right. Next up, it is Katya.
So I've got one of these guys engaged with me.
Correct.
All right. It's going to be at disadvantage because of the close range, but I'm going to fire the longbow packed weapon that I already have at the ready. At a disadvantage, that's a dirty 20.
Holy hell. Yes, absolutely.
Rolled a 15 and a 19 on the die. So that will be...
Again, these are slavers, so they're minions.
10 points of damage.
Yep. Like I said, they're minions, so that will certainly take them out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he's so close. Like I barely get to. I kind of press the bow up against him, and just release this arrow, kind of just forcing it into him with the bow string. And then, are we in the middle of the room or near a wall, or how did we come in?
Yeah, you're basically right in the middle of the top deck,
and we're surrounded.
Yeah, fairly well.
All right. I think that's all I got for right now.
Okay. Katya downs one of them. He kind of buckles in the middle as this shadow arrow like passes all the way through his abdomen. And he kind of folds onto the deck with nary a noise. Ingvaraad, you're up.
She's gonna go to swing her hammer, but see that the guy like raises his shield. Instead, he's gonna smash her horns into his face. That's a crit.
Okay.
Yeah, so she just like she like fakes out with the hammer, and he like goes to dodge out of the way, and then she like grabs the front of his shirt and just smashes her horns into his face.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear the cracking of not only cartilage but also of his brow bone as the front of his face caves under the weight of your significant horns, and he crumples into a heap. We go downstairs to where Darian is working on this lock. Darian, you've got 2 of these tumblers held in place. And all of a sudden, you hear muffled from above you. And then chaos and hell breaks loose. There's screaming and the clash of metal and footfalls. It sounds like unholy hell has broken loose up above you. You take a moment to kind of refocus, redouble your efforts, and finally your work pays off as you hear the final and you feel the lock disengage. Viddaraas next to you says, Is that it? Did you get it?
He'll pull the lock down with a satisfied smirk on his face. Just in time, too. Seems like the cavalry's shown up.
She reaches past you and pushes the door open with haste and with little caution. The room...
Yeah, Darian will frown just as much out of his fantastic work not being appreciated as she is putting herself in danger, but we'll follow in.
The room on the other side is not overly large, maybe 20 feet by 10 feet, give or take. And it is dominated by almost a chair or a bed, like torture device looking things, 4 of them. And 3 of them are currently being occupied. They have the creatures there are almost impossible to even make out what they are. They have this myriad of metal bands that have arcane symbols on them, wrapped like form-fitted around their bodies and their heads and their limbs, kind of holding them in one position. You can see these like hoses, these ether hoses that look like they're attached to some kind of almost a medical apparatus. Very elven. All of this stuff is very elven looking. This hose seems to attach itself to the base of their skulls. And there is what looks like pure ether coursing through these hoses and into the back of their skulls. And in addition, there are smaller tubes that are coming from pretty much everywhere where they would have like an artery. So the crook of their arm, the inside of their groin, their necks, and the ether that belongs in Zephyrs is coursing out of their veins and collecting in vials nearby. Viddaraas immediately runs to one of these chairs. She says, No, 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 no. What are they doing? She starts frantically trying to free the individual that's there.
Marion will like rush up next to her, kind of putting a hand on her shoulders to try to steady her. Well, wait. We don't know what taking these things out would do.
We have to. We have to. We don't have a choice. We need to get her away from here. Please, Darian, please help me.
I'll try, but this is out of my depth. I'll do my best.
Oh, I don't know what to do. So the two of you start looking at this thing, trying to figure out how to work it. We head back upstairs. Bastaarad, it is your turn.
Bastaarad is looking at this sea of people around him, and he is finally feeling ready and able to just unleash this fury that's been building, this anger at Viddaraas for leaving and going into this dangerous mission when she knew she shouldn't, and even anger at Ingvaraad for putting up so little of a fight when he knew that it was something so dangerous for his daughter to do that he hoped that he could have something to at least, rage against, and not being able to almost made it worse. And so he's going to go ahead and I'm going to use the last key point I have to make this unarmed strike a flurry of blows. And I just want to try to strike out at everyone around me, like the three nearest people. So the first one's a 17 to hit.
Yes.
Oof. The second one is only going to be a 6 to hit. And the third is a 15.
That will also hit. So 2 hits.
So so he swings with the quarterstaff, slamming it, like the end of it, into one of them. And as another starts coming at him with a scimitar, he takes a page from Ingvaraad's book and headbutts him with the horns. And he tries to swing at another one, but is unable as the momentum from the horns kind of throws him off balance.
All right. Having felled several of these individuals, they don't seem ready to give over their ship yet. And the second and third waves fill in those who have fallen, the spaces they've left behind. And again, come at you with their scimitars.
They do need, if they're entering that 10-foot square, they have to continue to make a 12 DC.
Excellent. So the second wave coming in fails. They are unable to navigate both the slipperiness of the deck and the bodies and blood of their fallen companions, and they slip and fall kind of all over the place, slamming into some of these crates, each other, losing their footing altogether. Those that were already closed with you, the ones that remain at least, are going to strike out. Bastaarad, you no longer had anybody close to you. Kalp, I think you still had one that was close to you.
Okay. 17 AC.
Yeah, he's going to hit you with a 19 on the die.
Okay, so at that point, I actually react with bringing my swords up, and it creates this this wall of something. It's actually causes the deflection to happen as I cast shield. So it adds +5 to my AC.
And what does it make it total?
22.
Yeah. So with a 19 on the die, that's still going to bypass.
Oh, okay. I thought he got a 19 total.
No,
right.
no. He had a 19 on the die.
Okay.
So that's going to be 7 points of slashing damage. And I need a Constitution saving throw, please. Okay. Barely, but you managed to shrug off the effects of this poison. All right. Katya, you had that one that just dropped next to you, and then Ingvaraad killed hers. So, okay. The rest of them are all kind of scrambling to find their feet at the moment. So, Kalp, it's your turn again.
As this guy hits him, and Kalp is kind of knocked back for a moment, he actually knocks off a patch of skin flakes, and as he does so, you see this gaping ether underneath, and he kind of exhales this blue glow of ether as he disappears in a messy step and goes to the... I can go within 30 feet, so I want to go within the back ranks of the group that's reinforcing. So,
Sure, absolutely.
And so I disappear in this blue etherous smoke as I reappear as a bonus action. So I'm then going to attack the first creature that I see back there.
Okay, and you can do so with advantage.
Excellent. So that is a 23 to hit on the first one. And another 23 to hit. So the rapier and the short sword both strike for a 23.
Yep. And again, these are minions, so you can go ahead and describe it.
All right. So as I erupt this trail of ether that almost you can see it kind of slide up over the guy that just hit me, and then just kind of trails off. But then it reconnects back where I came, and as I came forward, I bring forward with the rapier and just sort of skewered one guy right through the throat as it just pierced his throat and then erupts through the back, and you see this gulfing of blood just start to come out as he pulls it back, and he just brings it forward and just takes the next one and strikes down on the forearm, but right at the veins, and you see blood erupt from that as he and then goes to a defensive posture as this blue ether smoke sort of takes its starts to dissipate.
Absolutely. And as you cut down two of them, surprising the rear ranks, several of them kind of turn shocked to see you having suddenly appeared behind them. And just as this has transpired, there's a scream from below decks. Bastaarad and Ingvaraad, both of you unmistakably know this scream to have come from Viddaraas.
Right before that, I say, "Shall we dance?" And then I look kind of puzzled as the scream happens. And as I look across to them with this quizzical look of, am I going down the stairs now?
No, you would be on the opposite side of where this crowd is gathered.
Okay, so there's no stairs behind me. Okay.
Not immediately where you are. You might have to go further up ship to find maybe another set that would lead down. All right. Katya.
I am going to scan this room, seeing where Cal kind of greased the floor, and a bunch of the second wave all kind of spun out. And then he kind of bamfed over to the other side of the room. I'm looking for a spot with a 10-foot radius, so I guess a 20-foot area circle where I can catch as many of these guys without hitting any of my people. And I'm going to target the floor. Not sure if this is going to actually break through the floor, but I'm going to cast Shatter basically on the floor, trying to catch as many of these guys as possible. They need to make a DC 12 con save or take 17 points of thunder damage.
Okay. Constitution, you said?
And yes, and I believe they actually take half on...
Yeah, minions, if they succeed on the saving throw to take half, they don't take any.
Okay.
But these guys did not pass. So you were able to catch, let's see. It's got to be more than that. Okay. You were able to catch 7 of them in this blast. And in fact, how much damage does it do?
It does 17 points of damage, and it does do damage to stone, wood, crystal, etc.
Right. Okay. So you cast the spell. The area that you have to do so is very, very tight. So it probably brushes up against you and Calp both. Both of you kind of have to lean back as this thing goes off. And when it does so, the floor craters and splinters. And several of these individuals die simply from falling a deck down onto this broken wood. Several of them pierced by jagged splinters of plank that are probably 3 to 4 feet long. Several of them get thrown off the side of the ship, and many more of them just go down to the ground with their eardrums bleeding. So there's this kind of ringing noise that hangs in the air after your spell goes off, and there's this big open hole to the deck below.
What do we see down there? Just another deck, kind of like the same one we're on?
Yes. The deck below you, though, seems very empty. Like the one that you're currently standing on has all kinds of crates and things where they've been loading it. But this cargo deck beneath has not been loaded at all yet. So it's pretty much empty except for now bodies and splintered wood.
And how far of a drop was it?
It's probably about an 8-foot drop.
All right. I will stand by, staying up here.
Okay. As Katya is doing this and her spell is detonating, Ingvaraad, it's your turn.
So Ingvaraad wants to get to the direction where she heard the scream by like the most direct route possible, which I think might be jumping through the hole in the deck.
It's certainly less people between you and the stairs.
Yep. So that's what she does. It's like not a smart move, maybe, but it's like instinctual.
Sure.
Do that.
Okay. Make me either an athletics or an acrobatics.
Okay. Athletics, I think I'm good at. Yes, a 15.
Okay, excellent. You managed to kind of bound down into this hole in such a way that you avoid taking any damage from the not small, but small enough leap. You kind of land on this deck. You hear and see all of this broken slavers and debris off to one side, and kind of turning in the other direction, you can see this door at the end of the deck standing wide open. And that's all you see currently.
She'll just call out for Viddaraas and move towards that door.
When you call out, there's an answer. Auntie Ingvaraad, come here, please.
Yeah, she'll sprint inside to Viddaraas' side.
Okay. You rush towards the door. Darian, It's your turn. Inside the room, the two of you have kind of looked at this a little, and she, out of frustration, has just screamed at the top of her lungs. She has tears just running down her face in frustration and anger. You hear this horrendous noise, this splintering of wood, and the screams of pain that follow with this thunderous boom. What would you like to do?
Darian will like instinctively like bring up his arms protectively as this like thunderous crack roars out, not being sure what's happening or where. And then once he realizes that whatever has caused it is not immediately nearby or threatening him, or Viddaraas next to him, he'll regain his composure and he'll look over to Ingvaraad with just this look of like confused desperation. And he'll just like point to these strange creature things tied up in all these aether tubes, some sort of sick surgical experiment. I guess this is what she's here for, but I don't know what to do. They're all, and he's just like he's wordless. He doesn't know what to say or how to describe what's happening. He can only just gesture wildly and hopelessly.
Ingvaraad, as you arrive in the doorway, and Darian turns to face you with this problem, you look past him to try to figure out exactly what's going on. And you realize that the figure strapped to this gurney that they're standing at, where your niece is weeping, this bonekin woman named Dathkari was at one time your sister. You can see, even though these bands of metal bind her in place, that she has been through the process of Ibisam. Would you please describe what exactly Ibisam is? What it looks like?
It's sort of a grafting of like god bones into mortal flesh. It's like the worst possible thing. And like seeing Dathkari like that is like shocking. I think like Ingvaraad just like stops and like is incapable of like speaking. Like this is so profane, so like evil. And she like shakes her head, and she doesn't know if there's anything that she can do to fix it, which is worse.
Viddaraas has this agonizingly pleadful stare on her face in your direction, Viddaraas, and it's apparent that she also has no idea what to do. But without a doubt, this is the reason that she came. She is sobbing and trembling. Oh, Ingvaraad, please, there's got to be something that we can do. We have to get her out of here. This isn't right. Look what they're doing to her. Please help me. Please.
Ingvaraad sort of like shakes her head as if to clear like cobwebs, and will like walk over and like look at the setup and what's involved. She doesn't really know. If she like pulls out a tube or something, like will she die? She doesn't really know. But she also knows that this is not what she would want to be like experimented on like this. So she doesn't really know what to do. She's like stuck, and like is also not in a position where she can like comfort Viddaraas, because she herself needs comforting. She doesn't know like how to process this. We can try and take her away from here.
She just nods in agreement. Okay. So Darian. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Darian will just look over to Ingvaraad, say, I don't know what's happening here, but you have my hand, whatever we need, whatever we can do. Tell me and I'll do it. And just basically mechanically for my turn, I'm just going to be helping Ingvaraad, whatever we can possibly do to help someone like this. I don't even know. Darian doesn't know. But he'll listen and take orders and do what's told of him to help whatever Ingvaraad thinks is best.
All right. With that, Darian. Sorry. With the end of Darian's turn, Bastaarad, it's your turn.
So Bastaarad had a similar idea about the hole in the floor being the most direct route, although he's still kind of in this fury and would like to try to grab one of the nearest people nearby and just kind of shove them in front of him as he jumps down, try to land on them, kind of cushion his fall with one of the slavers.
All right. So make me an athletics check. I don't think this chump's got anything.
Okay, athletics. It's only going to be a 12 then.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. That's going to be a 14.
Yeah. He only got a 5. So you very, very easily collide into this slaver, taking him kind of up off of his feet and just continue your weight to throw your weight into him up and over the edge of this hole. The two of you sail downward, and you can hear and feel his body collapse underneath you as you land on top of him and kind of immediately roll off.
I will also sprint towards where it seemed that sound was coming from. Like, Ingvaraad, where are you? Where'd you go? Viddaraas!
Ah! You hear Viddaraas' voice call from this open door at the end.
Yeah, I'll sprint towards the door.
And as you reach the open doorway, where Ingvaraad is still kind of just barely standing inside of it and are able to see past her, the same realization dawns on you as to who this individual is, or rather was, as she suffered in ether death years ago. What does it look like, Bastaarad, as you see the bonekin woman who at one time was your wife in this vile circumstance?
Bastaarad stops completely dead in his tracks at the door, and the deep color on his face almost seems to fade. It's like the bonekin equivalent of turning white, and as he grows pale and he's what that's not. And he turns to Ingvaraad, and he's just sputtering. He's completely lost. She's gone. That's not. And he takes a step back. What have you done? What's going on?
No, she's not gone. She's right here. She's just they're hurting her. Please, we can't let this happen. Please.
He closes his eyes and starts to shake his head slowly.
Duh!
He looks up at her. Okay. And he walks towards Deathkari and starts to look at at these things coming out of her.
Okay.
looks down and says, I'm so sorry. I drove you to this. And he starts to reach up for one of the tubes that is going into her arm and start to see if he can how gently he can pull it out of her arm.
You extract this hose that has this needle on the end of it that is easily probably 4 to 5 inches long, and it's dripping with this thick ether. You can see the color of the glow from that's still coursing through the veins to this point, as it then starts to actually weep out of the wound in the crook of her arm and run down her forearm, drip onto the floor.
He'll tear a little piece of his tunic shirt off and tie it around that wound and try to move on to another. And he's just whispering all along, quietly to her. It's all right. You deserve to rest now. Your body's been taken. But we'll get you out of here and we'll put you somewhere comfortable.
All right. Meanwhile, back on the deck above, with Katya and Kalp being the last two remaining on deck, the remainder of the slavers are going to attempt to regain their footing. They manage to get to their feet. What little reinforcements are left, however, are not so lucky. The grease still doing its job to keep some of them at bay. However, Kalp and Katya, both of you are going to take 2 attacks. Kalp, man. Okay, one of them was another 19 on the die, but the second was a 16 total. So I don't think that second one's going to hit you with shield up. Okay.
Yeah, because it lasts till the end of my next turn, so it's 22.
Right. Yeah, so it glances off of this crossed shield or crossed swords that kind of form this barrier between you and he. But the first one managed to bypass it and cut you for 6 points of slashing damage. As he kind of cuts you across right above your knee. And you can make another con save, please.
And it's deep. You can tell I'm bloodied at this point. That is a 17 for a save.
Okay. And again, you manage to refuse the poison that you know is coursing through your body. You refuse it to have whatever effect it might carry with it. Katya, the 2 come at you. The first of which is 15. I think will hit.
Yep, that hits.
The second of which will also hit then. The first one is going to deal 7 points of slashing damage. The second deals 6. And I need 2 con saves, please.
Two con saves. All right, let's see. The first one is a 12. Oops. Second one, I should have kept the one that went out of the dice tray, is a 7.
Okay, the first one, you're fine. Barely. You managed to kind of slough off the effects. But the second, you're not so lucky. Let's see.
Jeez, keep rolling dice.
How many hit points do you have remaining?
Probably less than the number you rolled on those dice. 7.
Okay. The poison on this blade is a sleep spell poison. They rolled more hit points than you have remaining. So, Kalp, you watch as Katya doesn't fall from the blade stroke. There's a delay. Her eyes then roll up into the back of her head, and she falls over unconscious. The two that came at her swinging their scimitars immediately bend down, drawing a hood over the top of her head, and start binding her limbs with rope. All right. Kalp, it is your turn.
And I cross my weapons before me, and I lean forward and I say, I demand the parley with your Captain Hamilton. It is my right as a noble of the Antua family.
There's an immediate, pause that kind of falls over this group of slavers. As they all kind of look at you as if they don't fully register what you just said, and then kind of step back. And one of the individuals from the other side of the back of the crowd steps forward, and he says, I'm Captain Hamilton. You said you are a member of the Antua family?
That's correct. Can you, if you have your men part, I will drop this greasy mess and we can speak.
He seems like he's going to oblige you for the moment.
I'm not dropping my guard, though. I mean, I'm
Sure.
not you know what I mean? But I'm ready to parry.
As these slavers kind of part and you're able to see more of kind of what's on this deck, you see several crates, not with the ones that were loaded on here, but off to the side that have your family's crest painted on the outside of the crate. Okay. Then let's talk.
Yes, let's talk.
We head back downstairs.
Let your men retire as I kind of kneel down and I begin ripping off a piece of something as I wrap it around the wound that's forming at my shin.
As the two of you begin your parley, we head back downstairs. Ingvaraad.
So trying to piece together what she can do to try and save her sister, and she actually thinks that, it creeps into her brain that this isn't really her, that she probably died a long time ago, and that this is something else, maybe beyond rescue. But she couldn't say that to Viddaraas and to Bastaarad. So I'm going to try and I think I'm going to try and cast Bless. I know mechanically it won't do anything, but it'll do something for Ingvaraad. So she'll appeal to the gods in order, one by one, particularly to her own sort of patron, Akun, who is a maker, and that this thing that has been made can maybe be unmade, and she's gonna cast bless, and then like assist Bastaarad in pulling out the remaining like needles and things like that, and then try and help him carry her somewhere away from here.
Would that blessing be like loud enough to be audible?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, Bastaarad kind of glances up for just a moment, and you can see that he has tears welling in his eyes. It doesn't seem like his face is a lot softer than it normally is when he looks at you, and he he just quietly says, like, "The gods live. It was their breath that did this to her." And just goes back to the work.
Nearby, Viddaraas has joined the chanting prayers of her aunt, trying to bolster them. And Lloyd, if you would please roll me either religion or persuasion.
I don't know if my help could possibly factor in here, but I
Sure.
did mechanically use it if it would count towards giving him
Absolutely.
advantage, even if it's
Absolutely.
just bolstering, giving
Excellent.
confidence.
Yep, the advantage made a big difference. That'll put me at a dirty 20 for religion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is like from like the couple days that he spent at the church. Like I think there's probably like one song that you probably didn't even like sing this hymn for him. He just like read it in one of the books, and it'll like come to his mind, and against everything in his normal spirit will like see the severity of the situation and join in the hymn. Perhaps surprisingly, as my help.
And as you do so, you begin to work pulling these hoses out. When you pull the one at the base of her skull, the needle that comes with this one is not 4 or 5 inches long. This is about 7 inches long and is probably as big around as a human pinky. And again, this ether just begins, as it's being pumped in through this, it just starts coming out of the end of this hose as this like blue, just this heavy gas, just raw ether mist pouring out of the end of this hose now that it's no longer connected. Her eyes snap open. They are slitted and feral. Immediately, she begins violently thrashing around, unable to move much because of these bands of metal that are all over her body, constricting her. These bands of metal that contain these arcane runes. And she is just railing and thrashing and gnashing her teeth like a caged animal. You guys know, all of you would be familiar with what happens to beings in momentum when they suffer an ether death. And particularly, bonekin become known as monsters called the broken. And Ingvaraad, you're not far off at all. You would probably be aware that there's no cure, and that this creature is likely not even cognizant of a previous life. There's no recognition when she looks at either any of the 3 bonekin in the room with her. But there's no question that she has malice in her demeanor.
Ingvaraad will just say quietly to Bastaarad, "She's gone. She's not there."
You think I don't know that?
We cannot have Viddaraas see.
What? What do you mean? She says as her prayer falls quiet.
She needs to rest, Viddaraas. Look at her.
I
This is
know.
no way.
That's why I came, so we can take her away from here, and she can be at peace. We can find a quiet place for her to be, and we can heal her.
Child, she's not there. She's not there anymore.
I don't understand. She's right here.
It doesn't work that way, Viddaraas.
I
There is
came.
no escaping from this.
No, I came all of this way. I'm right here. She actually leans out her hand and touches the arm of her mother. I'm right here.
But she is not. This is a husk. This is an empty, twisted thing that inhabits the shell that once carried your mother.
The Colossiahs would not do this. They wouldn't do this to us. Duh.
They don't. So whatever. She looks around the ship again. Whatever this is, not the work of the gods.
This was men, humans, maybe elves, terrible creatures. Like say, looking down at himself as he says that, who do terrible things. Whether the gods will it or not, they do them. I'm sorry. You did a lot to come here, and it was very brave. And he'll just shake his head, like he doesn't know what do you even say to somebody in this situation.
She asks almost incredulously. I failed? I
You
prayed.
didn't fail. There was nothing to succeed.
I prayed about this for months. I knew this was right. I was supposed to do this. How could this not be the right way? I don't understand.
How do you know it's not the right way? Darian will say, surprisingly gently. If she would go on like this, under their experiments, who knows what terrible things she would become, she might do, under their effect, under their spells, under their tricks. In a way, you have saved her from a much worse fate. In that way, you've succeeded, truly.
At least perhaps now we can give her peace.
How? I don't know. How do I say goodbye?
This has been hard for you. It's been hard for all of us. We have to. Because Athkari is not here. He must have died a long time ago.
She takes a sobering inhale. And she kind of nods in surrender.
You cannot blame yourself for this. You are good and kind and sweet. This is not a mistake that you made.
I can't watch this. And she
No.
turns
And
and
Darian will kind of like take her by the elbow and kind of like turn her away from it and like walk her out of the hallway, out of the room, and just give Ingvaraad and Bastaarad like a grim shake of the head as he'll like lead her to turn her sight away from it.
Bastaarad will pull a small wooden box from his pouch, kind of trying to almost make sure that Viddaraas doesn't see it, like not pull it out until she's gone. This little incense box, and he'll spark a little piece of incense and burn it in the box and turn to Ingvaraad. I'm not sure I can do this, but I can't ask you to. She was your sister.
You can't. You can't take another thing like this.
There was a time in my life before her, and that's not true for you. I can't let you live with this. You know that I'm already. And he just kind of looks at you and doesn't finish the sentence. You still have much in you. Just be with Viddaraas right now.
She takes a moment and like looks at Bastaarad like, this is too much for anyone. And she'll like reach down and cut like a lock of hair from Dathkari and like place it into a pouch. And then sort of like shake her head sadly. Now she walks, she'll put her hand on Bastaarad's shoulder and then go to be with Viddaraas.
I think we follow Ingvaraad from the room. And the last thing that we see is Bastaarad standing kind of over this violently thrashing broken woman, bound by these metal bands. I think that's where we're going to stop for tonight. So, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was thoroughly enjoyable. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Thank you for anyone who may have watched this evening or maybe tuning in the future. I'm going to toss this over to my players to let them kind of say any pieces that they may have with the events of the evening. Plug anything you want. Say an outro. Tell the people you love them, etc., etc. And then we'll put a bow on it. So first up, Jeff.
And I don't know what I was expecting to be in that room, but that was not it. Damn, that's a lot to process, and it's not even like I'm not even connected in the world to them, and it's a lot to process. Yeah, I mean it's another great session as always. Like this campaign is like in so few sessions become so like wildly interconnected and like personal. It's like really impressive to see how quickly it's come together in such a deep way. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more and having my heart ripped into many more times throughout the campaign. It seems. Yeah, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel called Counterbalance where I do my stuff. I do a podcast with our wonderful GM here and Chad Nick called The Dudes You Are. You can check out my stuff there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. And as always, man, I appreciate you coming on and being a player. I enjoy thoroughly having you at the table. All right, next up, we have Lloyd.
That's tough. That was pretty rough. But it was good. It's like heavy punch. It's a fun game. And like the good ones are the ones where at the end you go, whoa, Jesus, you know. For me anyway, those are the ones that I always like that stick with me. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great.
Absolutely, man, and it's a pleasure to get the chance to run a game for you. I played in a campaign of yours for a while, and it's nice to kind of switch things around, to turn the table. And you're obviously a very, very fantastic player, so I appreciate the fact that you bring the kind of weight that made that kind of a scene possible. So thank you. All right, next up we have Jake.
I just have no idea what's happening because I've been asleep for all of the good stuff. Kind of wondering, out of character, how and if Ingvaraad is going to explain what happened. This is assuming, of course, that I wake up. Depending on how Kelp's negotiations go. But yeah, this is one of those games that is incredible, that I can spend the last 20 minutes of the game unconscious and be so riveted to what's happening, away from my character. Just like Jeff said, there's an emotional investment both as characters and as players. And it's really cool to see how all of the stories are getting woven together in this intricate way in so few sessions, and just an incredible group of people to play with, to bring this tone, this level, to the role play. And it's awesome. I get to DM for you on a weekly basis, so it's awesome to sit at your table for even if it is only once a month or so. These are longer games, so it's kind of like playing in 2 of our sessions. But yeah, it's really cool to get to play under somebody who you DM for, and I think just about, if not all of us, have done that for each other. So I think that lends a little bit to what's going on at the table. So yeah, I absolutely love everything about this session, this campaign, this group. I'm Jake. You can find me on Mini Terrain Domain on Twitch and YouTube.
Excellent. And yeah, echoing what I said about Lloyd, like giving the chance to run a game for you after you've run so many for me is definitely it's, I feel like I'm paying something back almost, and I'm really, really glad to learn that you're having a good time. Again, like all of you guys just bring so much to your characters and to this setting, and it's really, really exciting to watch this setting that's kind of fledgling and new kind of literally come to life as you guys are just injecting all of this fantastic stuff that's very rapidly becoming canon. So I appreciate it immensely. Next up, we have Dave.
Oh, shit. So, yeah, I can only imagine what Calp is, the spine-tingling senses that are going up his spine as he's looking at his family's sigil on these crates that are on the deck, and then never having met Hamilton, he is just curious as to what is actually down below deck. Yeah, I mean, meta-wise, we know what's below deck, and that is what is really scaring the shit out of Kelp right now. So, yeah. So I'm Dave with Mornblade Gaming, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to next session. So we're going regular as of March, right? So we're going the first Wednesday of every month. So looking forward to that, and yeah, if you're so inclined, definitely check out every one of these gents' channels, and check out Mornblade Gaming if you're interested.
Absolutely. Dave, I think this is the second campaign that I've managed to get you as a player in, and it's always it's always so much fun. You you come at things in a very different angle than I ever seem to plan for or think about. So that keeps me on my toes, and it's always a lot of fun to see how you handle yourself in situations. Your characters are always always very unique. And Calp is certainly no exception. All right, last but certainly not least, Austin.
Well, first off, thank you. You just added to my list of games, game sessions I will never forget. That was amazing. I've never had to kill my ex-wife before, so hopefully never will again. But that was incredible. You bastard, you made me feel things, and that's not supposed to happen. This is just a game. But it's so much fun to play with all of you guys. It's just incredible. Like, there's so many times where it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm playing in this too. I'm not just like watching this. Like, I have to like contribute. Because you guys are just so engaging to watch. Like, it's always so fun to like, oh good, my turn's over. I can lean in now and just be a viewer for a second. And so just thank you so much. No channels yet. Eventually there'll be something probably. But thanks again. I can't wait to get this on a regular schedule.
I will second that. I'm looking forward to being able to have a reliable date to fall onto, because I certainly want to see what's coming next, and how you guys are going to mold and shape that. So thank you very, very much for playing, and I really look forward to our next session. So everybody in the audience, thank you very much, and until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.